All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. I will call this meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Today is July 28th, 2025, and the time is 7 p.m. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu.
Here.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Hersey.
Here.
Councilmember Colasetti.
Here.
Councilmember Bishop. Councilmember Bishop. Councilmember Wilkin.
Here.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we have quorum. We may proceed. All right, the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the following meetings. June 23rd, 2025, City Council meeting. June 25th, 2025, City Council meeting. June 25th, 2025, Special Committee of the Whole meeting. Are there any corrections? See none?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mary Alice. Is there a second?
Do you want to state your motion, Mary Alice? I'll second it.
I'll move approval of June 23rd, 2025, and June 25th, 2025, as well as June 25th, 2025 Special Committee.
I'll second.
Awesome. Motion made by Mary Alice, seconded by Jaya. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Wu.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey.
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti.
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin.
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
So Councilmember Bishop has joined the call, and we do not appear to be able to hear her in chambers, so I don't know if UPTV is able to adjust that.
Okay. We will give that a quick second. Chandra, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. All right, that motion passes. All right, are there any additions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we will move on. We will now move to presentations and public input. So first, we will welcome a presentation on the East Central Illinois Buildings Trade Apprenticeship Training Program. So if you gentlemen wouldn't mind coming up to the front, state your name, and the floor is yours.
Mike?
Yep.
My name is Chuck Black. I'm the business manager of Ironworkers Local 380, and I'm also the recording treasurer and secretary for East Central Illinois Building Trades. And I sit on a committee of several trade members that govern a pre-apprenticeship that gives opportunity to those that may not have opportunity in a normal setting, to give them some education on the trades, what we can do, the education that we offer, and basically getting paid to learn.
Justin McMullen. I am a union plumber pipe fitter. I'm also the coordinator for East Central Illinois Building and Construction Trades pre-apprenticeship. I teach the education part of the pre-apprenticeship. We put them through a vigorous 13 weeks, 16 hours a week. And at the end of it, we just presenting opportunities for the individuals who may not have had the opportunities to get into a construction trades program. So we're trying to open doors that have previously been closed to different members of the community.
My name is Trayden Woods. I'm a sheet metal worker for the Smart Local 218, first year apprentice. I went through this program. It actually taught me a lot. Crazy enough, at the beginning of the year, I didn't even know what a sheet metal worker was. But yeah, they show us everything. They show us every trade. They expand our horizons. The best part about it, I would say, is it's not for a certain community. You know, we have different ages, different races, all the way up to 52, all the way down to 18. We've got men, women, and we all just come together as a community. And they take us on these trips. They give us hands-on experiences. They just do everything for us, and they prepare us for our tests. They prepare us for our interviews. They go the whole 9 yards, and the best part about it is they pay us along the way. So
So when he's talking about trips, what we do is we do on-site visits to the apprenticeship schools in the local area. Some of the locals may not have apprenticeship schools right in this area. And at that point, we bring trade professionals from those locals into our shop setting to introduce our students. Basically, we're trying to mirror what our population in our communities to the trades. And we think that's an important thing. And our program has been pretty blessed to place, how many have we placed so far, Justin?
We placed 6 into different trades, sheet metal, plumbers and pipe fitters, cement masons, insulators,
Yeah, iron workers. So it's pretty important, but it can't be done without a little backing. We're lucky enough to have some support through grants, through some state entities, county entities, and we just feel that it's an important partnership, and we'd like to have the city of Urbana's support.
I will open it up for any questions, thoughts. I can kick it off if that's cool with everyone. I know it's no secret to the majority of folks back here for sure that, over the last few years, for sure, I've had, tremendous partnership with the union and trades. We've brought, I don't know how many job fairs, to the community, here over the last few years. I think Trey he attended one of those, if I'm not mistaken, so, just goes to show some of the, that it's a continuation, right? The reason I brought them, and wanted them to present was so that we could see firsthand, the benefits of the pre-apprenticeship program, it started, as far as I'm concerned, it started with, a conversation and understand. I got the numbers from Matt Kelly, at a point in time, and he told me out of 400-something odd people that there was only 4 minority women applicants, that ended up actually having an opportunity, and that was just mind-blowing to me. And I asked the question of why? Why is that the case? And it was simply due to, just the net not being cast broad enough, So one of the initial things was I said, joking with, Justin before, we're bringing these opportunities to the hood, right? And just opening that door, and providing these opportunities to folks who wouldn't ordinarily have access to them. Exactly what Chuck said, in that regard. So I want to say thank you all for not only taking y'all the vision and the thought and the work, y'all have taken it and just gone 1,000 miles an hour, and the numbers and results show. So my reasoning again was to bring them here so that we could hear it from the horse's mouth in a sense and know that when the time comes, that I want to ensure that the city of Urbana not only provides an opportunity of funding and helping this program because we see the benefits of it, but making it very clear, and I've told this to Chuck and Justin, we're going to have an Urbana-specific outreach program, to that. And that's where the direction that we're planning on going. So I wanted to bring them to you all, shoot whatever questions, thoughts, concerns that you all have while they're here. So thank you. Chris.
Well, you're definitely singing my music. My road to recovery involved 3 years at a cabinet shop on North 45, working for Vic Fine at Timberline Custom Cabinetry. So I'm really high on this. My question is, where is the shop that you train at?
Currently, we're at Local 149's Training Center, which is out in Savoy. 1005 South Dunlap. We're there 3 days a week. We're there from 5 to 9, Tuesday, Thursdays, and then from 8 to 4 on Saturday. So the reason why we're there, it's one of the bigger shops and they got the most amount of space, but also 149 doesn't do night school. And so the individuals that we bring in, they go to night school. And since 149's training center is available at night, that's one of the best options right now for us.
Okay, great. How much, and I know, I'm just bringing up an idea, but are you interfacing with the Unit 116 school district to announce and expose people nearly graduating, particularly at the Freedom School? And I see you smiling, so maybe you have an answer for that.
Right now, I actually had this same conversation when I'm actually a Urbana alum. So I saw my guidance counselor when I was over at Urbana. It's been a little while ago, but I saw her tonight, and she was like, "Hey, you have an in at Urbana High School or Urbana schools. Use that in and try to get in there and see if you get some opportunities from Urbana graduates." And so she told me who I needed to reach out to over at Urbana, and I think I got a lead on something to try to get in over at Urbana and push the program to the graduates coming out of Urbana.
Super. And last question, and maybe, Elizabeth, this is too early to ask, but what kind of financing are we looking at? I mean,
That we are in early stages on that, and I think once you have a vision of what the city's looking for, we can look at options at that point. When we first started this, we did it kind of with Champaign County grant money, and we did the first ARP here in Urbana at my local union. It was a summer program, so we're able to do it 2 nights a week and every Saturday, structured the same as what we have now in Savoy and in Danville. So this program that we've been fortunate enough to kind of step into with help. All right, we got state guidance, we've got CEJA, we got Hire 360, and we got a group of minds that think outside the box here. So it just depends on what your vision is and see what we need.
And Chris, just to answer that, Elizabeth and I have had conversations around what that could be, but honestly, we wanted to bring it to you all before we, went down that.
well, again, I said last question. One last question. Can I ask how much the students get paid when they pay to learn?
So if you come every day for the 16 weeks and you put the hours in, it's only 182 hours for the total 13 weeks. And so the students get a $2,700 stipend for that. But you have to be there for that. Like, I'm not going to pay you if you're not going to be there.
Yes, indeed. It sounds exactly like a job. Sharice.
How it ought to be. Question, is there any chance that this kind of program that you have, since you're talking about the end of 116, that this kind of program could be combined as a credential, some kind of credit, not just toward graduation, but toward getting work elsewhere during high school? In high school, I went to Urbana too, and I remember. I'm probably a little bit older than you. At Urbana, they used to have, like, for the certain, they had a beautician or not anesthetician, but, beauty consultant type of classes for girls during high school. And when they graduated from high school, they also got a cosmetology degree because they would test for all that. Is that something that you're ever thinking about?
So through East Central Illinois Building Trades, we work with Parkland through the ECCA, and we have 2 cohorts of classes built of high school juniors and seniors that are dual credit. So when they come, they're getting high school credit, and they're also getting credit at Parkland College. That's not incorporated with this program, but they're getting similar instruction through Parkland, and they do the site visits. So that's another program, another option that's out there for students in this East Central Illinois. As far as what they receive when they graduate from us, he applied for the ironworkers, and You know, he went through the whole application process and presented his certificate of completion. Well, I can't speak for every trade, but that was worth extra credit in our application process.
Okay.
That's probably just another credential. So that credential could probably be used anywhere that's going to take these skill sets we're giving them. I can't guarantee that, but I know several trades, when they see that credential, they're going to get a little bit extra.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yep.
And another question, Traden, is that your name? Oh, tell me something about your experience in doing this and how,
In doing this,
and yeah, how, and do you, or have you shared this information with any of your peers or anybody that,
so it's crazy you just said that. I had a friend that just graduated the second cohort. He's looking to get into the plumber and pipe fitters. He'll test for that next year. My experience personally, when I came in, I was lost. I didn't know anything. I was quiet. I was shy. Now I'm here in front of you guys speaking loud. They built my confidence up. They showed me what I needed to do, and they told me every step of the way, as long as you do what we say, you're gonna get in. And I was the first one out of my class to make it into a union.
that's excellent, that's excellent. And Justin? Okay, so it was Jackie Matthews that you talked to?
Yes, it was. I literally just saw her probably about, I would say, 2 hours ago.
Well, you said counselor.
Yeah.
She's mine too. So, but I just wanted to share that. Okay.
Are there any Mary Ellis?
Thank you. It sounds like a great program. I'm wondering, are you guys working with the RPC Workforce Development Group?
I think Justin can speak on this too, but yeah, they are a big partner, and they are taking, there's options there for people from Champaign County and surrounding counties that they deal with through RPC. So we've been able to utilize them as a very strong resource and made some pretty impactful life happenings for some of our graduates through RPC. And RPC stays with them once they're in their system and tracks them through their whole progression. After the program, they're a great resource.
And what's your capacity, the number of people that you can have in your program at one time?
Go ahead.
So right now, the biggest class we had start was 20. The class that we're actually about to start our third program on tomorrow, and right now tentatively it's 24. I don't know exactly what we can do. When the classes get bigger, we need more instructors. So like the bigger the class, the more instructors we need. And I've been putting on more and more instructors because I don't want to burn out my current instructors. I want them to be able to have a life outside of teaching all the time also. So like if we get a class of 30, I'm gonna put on more instructors. So it really just depends on who all applies, and the more people that we get apply, we will put on accordingly, so.
Okay, thank you.
Jay?
Yeah, thank you all so much for coming and talking to us about this. Budget stuff always gets a little bit interesting, especially since we just did a budget. So it'll be interesting to see how this fits in a tight budget, but I'm really happy to hear about this program. We're very fortunate to be in a community with such strong unions, and I appreciate you guys helping lead folks, especially, from Urbana into these important trades. If there are folks, I know you said you're just starting a new cohort, but if there are folks who are interested in future cohorts, how do they find out about it? How to get registered?
We can both speak on this. So we advertise a lot, and it's really simple to remember, builtunion.com. So we put it out there in several avenues. We've got good community leaders that help us push it out there all throughout our communities in East Central Illinois. So it's easy. You get on there and you're there. You can apply online. It's form fill, comes back to us through the state, and then we have an administrator that will sit and make phone calls until we reach you. It's kind of relentless. We get after it. I mean, it's it's not something that runs itself. So we do have to stay active, but it's definitely out there. You could probably Google search Hire 360 and we're going to get popped up. So.
There any additional questions? Seeing none, listen, gentlemen, I appreciate you again, and as always, we'll be in touch and we'll talk soon. So,
Thank you for the time.
of course, thank you. Congratulations, Trey. Yes, sir. All right, next we will have a presentation on the Champaign County Redeploy Initiative. Please state your name, and I believe you have a slide too, correct? PowerPoint, all right. Press the button.
Hit the phone.
It says push. Okay. My name is James Benson.
Don't be shy. That's all right.
I'm usually talking without a mic. My name is James Benson. I am the Integrated Care Coordinator for the Champaign County Juvenile Redeploy Initiative. I just wanted to come and talk a little bit about our program. We've been in the community, and a lot of people don't know about us. As I said, my name is James Benson. I am also, in addition to being the Integrated Care Coordinator for the Champaign County Redeploy Initiative, I am also a member of the State Juvenile Redeploy Board. I'm going to be skipping some things because I only have 10 minutes. So Champaign County Redeploy Initiative has been around since January 2023. It started as a partnership with Dream and Cunningham Children's Home. Dream was the lead agency and Cunningham was an assisting agency. When fiscal year 25 started, Cunningham took over as the lead agency. Dream had to step back and because they had some other things that were going on. Right now, we aim to serve 16 youth, and we are currently at 10. So our program consists of myself. I run the day-to-day things there at the Redeploy Initiative. We have a clinical case manager. She's part-time.
In the mic.
I'm sorry. She's part-time, but she handles all our assessments and the mental health needs for the youth in our program. We have a case manager. She's really big with connecting kids with services, families with services, as well as doing a lot of the scheduling. And we have a family engagement specialist, and her job is to deal with the families, the caregivers, just everybody outside of the actual youth that we are serving. We're a small team, but we get after it. I'm gonna kind of skip some of the process. So in order to be eligible for the program, the youth has to be a resident of Champaign County. They have to be between the ages of 13 and 17. They have to be charged with a crime, and that crime has to be Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice eligible. They also have to take a assessment that's called, it used to be called the YAZI, but now it's called the Goals Assessment. This assessment measures it, instead of focusing on the criminogenic factors, it focuses on their strengths and their needs. We partner with court services. Our team consists of Julia Reed's office, the State's Attorney's office, the Public Defender's office, court services, which includes the JDC and probation. So current challenges that we're having have been engaging with caregivers. With all the violence in the community recently, we've noticed that people say that the kids are falling through the cracks, and I think it's less of the youth falling through the cracks, and it's more of the parents and the caregivers not engaging fully. We can have the kid for 4 hours a week, which is a lot. Doesn't seem like it, but it's a lot. But then they go back home to the environments and the places that they have been. And if the parents or caregivers aren't knowledgeable enough to go to, work with us on the things we're working with the kid with, it just kind of falls by the wayside. Another challenge is transportation. I remember when I was a kid, you can, cabs and people ride the bus. Now a lot of kids can't ride the bus. Some of the kids in our program can't, for safety reasons, don't want to get on the bus, and we understand that. So I do a lot of transportation, affectionately known as the Benson bus. We get them to probation appointments. We get them to doctor's appointments, and making sure that those things are being taken care of. Another challenge is building local partnerships, which has actually been going pretty well recently. With our program being fairly new, a lot of people just don't know we're out there. So I've been spending a lot of time on phones, on emails, and meeting with different people in the community to let them know that we're here and this is the work that we're doing. Another issue is the lead agency model. We did not think that Cunningham would be the lead agency, and now that Cunningham is, there's been a lot of changes that we've had to navigate within the last fiscal year. Things that are going well, engagement with youth. We definitely engage with, our rapport with the youth is pretty good. I'm at the JDC Thursdays and Fridays, and so with that being said, they already have a relationship with me before they enter the program. So building that relationship with the kids is not difficult. Collaboration with court services, we work very closely with probation, of course, because the kids who are on it have to be sentenced to the program. We also work closely with the JDC. That's where a lot of our youth are when I get that referral and I go out and do the goals assessment. The buy-in from the judiciary is huge. That's one of the things that we needed in order for the program to actually be accepted here. Judge Rosenbaum and all the juvenile judges are really, they like the program. They're excited about what we're doing. Substance abuse groups. Every single kid that we have smokes weed, and they do it for various reasons. So we want to get behind those reasons, figure out why, and one of those ways that we can do that is through substance abuse groups. I'm going to skip the next one. Flexibility of funding for youth and family needs. That's one of the things that we do from the very beginning. Once a kid is sentenced, I'm following them out of court, talking to their parent, saying, hey, is there anything that you guys need? If they say, hey, we're short on food, tell me what you need right now, and I'll run to Walmart and I'll get it for you. We need help for our power bill. I'll call you tomorrow and we'll figure out how to pay that. Because if their basic needs aren't met, they're not able to do anything else. You know, we want them to concentrate on probation, but who can concentrate on that if they don't have anything to eat, or if it's too hot in the house, or it's too cold in the house? So currently, we have partnerships with some tutors because all of our kids struggle with some academics. A lot of it is because they're just not going to school, and that's a place where they are kind of falling through the cracks, but we're actually working with the schools now to help do that. Clinical services, any kid that, not flags, but comes up with something on their mental health assessment, we send them out to Dr. Dinesha Grissom. She does all our full psychological evaluations for the youth, and Redeploy foots that bill. Coming soon, life coaching. That's a place where I've actually been able to, just today I met with Pastor Hub to talk about the Hood to Hood mentoring. And we also want to bring personal training and nutrition to the families. Most of our families struggle with money. Money's a problem. And, you know, they may be on assistance, but we want to make sure that they are doing the best they can to have as balanced meals as possible, because mental health, physical health, they all go hand in hand. Okay, just wanted to make sure. So our funding comes from the Illinois Department of Human Services. So we're state funded. It's not a competitive grant. It is a funding request. The big portion of Redeploy started because there were a lot of, let me step back. This is the 20th year that Redeploy has been around in Illinois. So Redeploy has been around and it's going to continue to be around. One of the reasons why the funding is, we get our funding from the state, is because due to the Redeploy program, the state has been able to close in the past 20 years, I believe between 3 and 5 juvenile facilities that basically kid prisons. And they've been able to close that and then redirect that money into community-based sentences. The kids that we get in Redeploy are a lot of times on their last chance. This is their last chance to get a community-based sentence. And so we work with probation. We make sure that we are offering these families services that they normally wouldn't have access to. We have the funds to pay for, the emergency things. We're gonna pay to get those psychological evaluations done. We really want to wrap as many services around these youth as possible so that we can say, all right, this is your last chance, but we have to show them differently. They have to be able to do different, and in order to do that, we have to approach them differently. Community safety is paramount. it's, that's why we collaborate closely with probation. If a kid is not doing well with us, we let probation know, we let the courts know, we get back in front of the judge, and, things happen very quickly. We are not a law enforcement agency, but we also understand that community safety is important. It's probably the most important thing right now. Our program has been directly affected by some of this gun violence recently, and so it's really lit a fire under our team to really try to get out into the community and just let people know that we're here, the work that we're doing is important, and make sure that that people are understanding that while these kids are doing some horrible things, they're also, at the same time, they're just kids, and they just need some guidance. And unfortunately, the parents need a lot of guidance too. And we try to do that as best as we can. I think that was my last slide.
Awesome, you ran through that. You had 20 seconds to spare. Well, I want to say thank you for coming out and presenting. I wasn't sure if you'd be able to get that quick of a turnaround, but you executed well. James and I met probably about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago now, with an initiative at that time, Dapper University, where we worked with at-risk youth, teaching them life skills, how to tie a tie, and prepping them for life and interviews and things like that nature. And here we are seeing, that those things are still important. So I'm encouraged, first off, to see that you're still in that space. The reason I asked James to present today, even in this space, was so that, as he said, the program is, it isn't well known, right? And there's an important piece, especially considering the phase in which we are seeing the gun violence increase with our youth in particular, that we get the wording out, that we get the messaging out. And I feel, comfortable in knowing that James in particular has a genuine ear to the streets and what's going on, and has a genuine heart to want to serve in that space. So while we're not looking at a financial ask, one thing that you will see, as far as Deshaun, the city of Urbana is concerned, we're going to, look to hopefully work with some of the, the local banks to help provide financial literacy to the families of the kids that are in the program. That James and Champaign County Redeploy works with hand in hand. So that's why you are seeing him here with us today, so that when you hear the name come up again, you'll know and understand exactly why and where it's coming from. So at this time, if there's any questions, thoughts, or concerns from council. Grace.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation. Definitely an important area, and I'm really glad to see this program starting and building momentum and to learn more about it. Definitely agree that, youth need guidance and don't need to derail an entire life for mistake of the youth. So I'm looking forward to details of more of how to support, which I guess maybe question for now, question for another time, of how the city can support outside of those connections, if there's any particular ask or goal we're working towards.
So right now, the only ask, or there's not really an ask, I just wanted to, let it be known that we're here. The mayor has already connected me with someone, and that was the gentleman from Hood to Hood Mentoring, so I was able to meet with him today. Excellent meeting, by the way. And thank you very much. And so, it's less of an ask and more of a, hey, we're here and we're doing some work. It's funny to come here and say we don't need any money, because we really don't need any money right now. We just want to make sure that 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 we're here, and then if there's if there's things that we need, if community connections and things like that, I've already talked to the mayor about that, and we just wanted to, just let you guys know that we're here.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, very rare to not have a financial request with it,
Right.
but happy to help connect, and definitely see you and hear you here, and happy to hear more from you. So thank you.
Sharice?
Hi.
Oh.
I would like to have your, do you have a website or you have anything like that?
So unfortunately, we do not have a website.
Okay.
There is no funding for that. There's a small portion of redeploy on Cunningham Children's Home's website, but we currently don't have one of our own. We were thinking that if we could get a couple of our youth who are interested in that to have them create the website, but we're still working on that.
And you guys have been around for how long?
So this program, we started in January of 2023.
Okay.
And so this would, FY '26 will be our second full fiscal year that we've been in Champaign County.
Okay, so you didn't work with Fresh Start or anything like that when it was,
No, ma'am.
okay. I guess the other question, so when you work with these teens, you said this is like this is the last straw for them. This is the last that they'll be able to not have to go to prison or jail.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that how that works?
Yes, ma'am. So that is how we view it now. It's like this is your last opportunity to show us that you can abide by your terms of probation and that you can do what's necessary to remain a member of the community and still, not only serve the community, but, be there for your family and things of that nature. Now, we, as a board, as the state board, we would like to move away from that being how Redeploy is known for. We want to be able to intervene if a youth is already on probation and they're not doing great before they start using up their days in remission, which are days that they can be sent back to the detention center to spend time as a sanction. We want to intervene sooner so that we get there before they're on their last chance. Because a lot of times when they're on their last chance, they are literally 30 days away from going, and we have to come in and incite and start so much change, and it has to be in such a small amount of time. It's difficult. It's not something we shy away from, but we also want to be able to give those services to kids and families who are not on their last chance, who could benefit from them.
Okay, so I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you work with families, or what programs do you have for parents that, because you said every child in your program smokes weed. I'm assuming that's not something they went to kindergarten and learned. So my question is, how do you work with parents, because that must be sanctioned in the home somehow? How do you work with parents to try to get those social skills where they can, my normal is not everybody else's normal, but I do want, you want to see a normal that's within a range of cooperation. So how does one?
So we have our family engagement specialist. We do monthly parent support groups. And in those groups, the parents and caregivers, they come together, we give them some food, and there's usually a topic. And so between the family support groups and our family engagement specialists speaking with them, and we are in constant contact with the parents over the phone, text message, email. We say, hey, Sean is, still testing positive. We're trying to figure out what's going on in the home. And they get defensive. And sometimes you have to say, and I've said this before, look, here's the thing. You're of age, and if you want to use marijuana, that is your legal right, but your child is not. So we need to have a good conversation with your son or your daughter about the dangers of it. And a lot of times the parents will push back, well, you're not gonna tell me what I can do in my house. Like, I understand that. But if you don't want the POs coming to your house, if you don't wanna have to keep coming back and forth to court, I know you can't control your child's behavior all the time, but you can enforce things like, hey, you know what, you're not gonna come home high. Just put some rules in there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But at the end of the day, we try to empower the parent to be more parental, less of a friend, more of a parent, because that's what they're asking. They want the child to do as they're told, but if you sit down and you roll up with them, it's kind of hard to say don't smoke weed as you're blowing the smoke in their face.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Chris?
follow up on Alderperson Hersey's line of questioning. They're on probation with Rosenbaum and Reeds. I'm assuming that they can't drop dirty if they're smoking weed. So what happens when do they get violated right off the bat, or what's going on?
Typically, they do not. When they do have positive screens, it's addressed in court. They are reminded of the rules that they signed off on. A lot of them have days in remission, which are days that can be used as a sanction, and the courts will use those days as a sanction. We as a program will require them to meet with either our clinical case manager, Shay, or if we referred them out to another agency, we will require them to meet more often with whoever their counselor is to discuss their substance abuse issues. We will also require them to come to their substance abuse groups. Usually it's every other month, but we'll make them come once a month. During the school year, they don't want the kids to miss a lot of school, the ones that are attending. So locking them up immediately for a positive drug screen is just not something that they do. The ability is there, but again, we want to get to the point of why they're smoking. A lot of the kids are smoking too because they have undiagnosed mental health issues. They're dealing with things, and this is how they numb. So by finding that out, we can say, hey, we know that he tested positive this month, but he admitted that he's only smoked 3 times this month as opposed to 20 times last month. And we take them at face value. Now, in juvenile court, they don't test levels, whereas adult court, they can test levels. They can say, okay, your levels are here. Next time you come to court, they should be lower. They don't do that for juveniles. So they're not always violated for that. But if there's a pattern of that, there's other tools in the court's toolbox. They can file a contempt petition, which can open up an additional 180 days that they could be used for sanctions, as opposed to revoking their probation. Because a revocation of probation is typically going to send them to the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice, which is something that is not ideal.
What access do you have to substance abuse treatment in town?
So we started our own in-house one because Rosecrans is an excellent provider. They're just overwhelmed with adults and juveniles. So Rosecrans is kind of what there was before, and now there's us and another option with Rosecrans. I wish I had more for that, but that's what we
Sounds
have
like
right now.
there's a need for additional
Yes,
substance
absolutely,
abuse.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Mary Ellis?
Hi, thanks for coming and telling us all about your program and not asking us for money off the bat. So do you have any information, data on the success of Redeploy in terms of, you had mentioned that they were closing some of the juvenile facilities. Is there any estimate in terms of how many people they were able to turn around?
I don't have a estimate. I can get that information, but right now, the only information I have as far as that is for FY25, the baseline here for Champaign County was 28. So 28 youth being sentenced to Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice was our baseline. Anything above that is bad. We ended the fiscal year with 8. So there were only 8 kids who were sentenced to the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice this does not include Class X felonies, but only 8. So we are well below our baseline, and that's how success is measured. So right now, we're successful with that. And I think out of all the sites in Illinois, only 3 were above their baseline. And a lot of that is because their baseline changed based on some demographic things.
So when you talk about baseline, you're not talking about the same kids, right? So 28 is your baseline, and you said 8 have been referred to juvenile detention. So it's not 20 kids, right? It's a different group of people. Is that
Correct.
right? Okay, I'm just double checking. Thank you.
All right, is there any additional questions? All right, seeing none. James, thank you again for coming, and I'm looking forward to working more with you. So let's get to it. Thank you. All right. All right, at this time, we'll open the floor for public input. If you wish to speak, please approach the microphone, state your name and city, and limit your comments to 5 minutes. The floor is yours. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? All right.
Good evening, council members. My name is Adani. I'm a homeowner in Champaign, but I'm here today with Curbanism Club. I think y'all know what I'm going to talk about. I'm here to advocate, let me start over. Curbanism Club is a group that advocates for more options for housing, transit, and fun. I'm here in support of Imagine Urbana because of its focus on increasing housing and transit options so that our community can grow. More neighbors means more people to share the property tax burden. And to be clear, this does include renters whose property taxes do get incorporated into their rent, which is something that I learned from Esther Pat. So anyone who says that students are not invested in this community are flat out incorrect. If we can build along transit lines, we can also save a lot of space that's taken up by cars. If we can focus and concentrate our building around the corridors where we already have bus service that goes towards the businesses that are waiting and expecting people to walk by them to end up there, it'll be easier to build and fit everyone in these spaces. Our current vacancy rates do not tell us if we have enough housing to grow. Vacancy rates do not indicate where those vacancies are or why those homes are vacant. Imagine Urbana directs the city to complete a comprehensive housing study, which would actually tell us our true housing needs. Preemptively rejecting new housing or a variety of housing means shutting the door and saying we do not want new neighbors. And I don't think that's the message that Urbana is trying to send. With university enrollment increasing and Illinois positioned as an island of refuge among our Midwestern states, our community is already growing and will continue to grow. If we are not able to plan effectively, we risk putting up the no vacancy sign. Please vote yes for Imagine Urbana and imagine a vibrant future for our growing community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council and Mayor, for allowing me to speak today. Hello, I'm Annie Adams, Vice Chair of the Urbana Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission, BPAC, and a resident of West Urbana, represented by the lovely Mary Alice Wu. I am here today to share why I support moving Urbana forward with the Lincoln Avenue Design Solutions and the Imagine Urbana strategies. First, something we can all agree on. I'd like to congratulate the Urbana Fire Department on their successful and daring rescue operations in extreme heat at the University of Illinois campus Farr Resident Hall, which during the school year houses residents of Urbana. Your training, cooperation, coordination, and preparations paid off. Your high standards and readiness make me proud to live in this fine city. Due to the university's housing options such as Farr and Orchard Downs and private housing options including Hendrick House and other rental properties, approximately 50% of our residents are students. As a result, Ms. Wu and Mr. Evans have the honor of holding 2 seats on council, given the large student population in their West Urbana wards. The University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign's enrollment, along with its campus, instructors, and support staff, has been growing steadily for years. In 2015, enrollment was 44,000. By 2024, it increased to 60,000, and 2025 promises another record-breaking year, with potential plans for future years to grow to 90,000. Our cities have seen and will continue to see an increase in students, professors, support staff, administrators, healthcare staff, facilities, restaurants, bars, escape rooms, grocery stores, arts, music, culture, events, bus routes, bike lanes, and housing. Some individuals will require short-term housing, such as a hostel, while others will need it for a few months, and still others will need it a few years or even a lifetime. We can either choose to imagine what kind of housing our neighbors on the other side of Lincoln Avenue will need and what type of road they would like to cross, or we can ensure that there are no affordable or reasonable priced housing options. They can self-deport to Champaign, where the City Council has consistently passed progressive small growth strategies. Illinois is an R1 university, meaning it is a Research 1 university. Recruiters around the world recruit our students, faculty, and staff who go on to shape government policy, start businesses like YouTube, and making a lasting impact on the world. The real questions are, What are we doing to keep them? And what are we doing to ensure the success of the university doesn't stress the housing market in ways that hurt our most vulnerable residents? The Regional Planning Commission has recently shared that Champaign County has had the highest road fatality rates in 20 years. The good news is that by adopting a safe systems approach, the university, which has the most complex and congested streets, has achieved 0 fatalities. RPC would like Lincoln Avenue to become part of the safe systems road design. Have you seen the dash cam footage of the car driver almost killing 3 students at Lincoln in Ohio? I have. The driver shared it with BPAC and begged us to fix the road. On Sunday mornings, I watch families line up and run across Lincoln Avenue to get to church, and it's not because they are late. People want to cross Lincoln Avenue, walk on the sidewalks, and ride their bikes, scooters, and assistive devices without getting hit by cars. This plan achieves this goal. I was lifting weights on my workout app with one of my favorite instructors, Tunde, and she said, "Nothing changes if nothing changes." My question to my neighbors is, where is the single-family housing? Why hasn't it been built? No one's stopping it. I hear so much about greedy developers eyeing our neighborhood, but why is no one rushing in to build our abundant vacant properties downtown, even when we have an RFP, which is a request for proposal, wide open? Why would they? We don't have a plan. Champaign does. If I were to invest millions, I would invest in areas where a clear strategy is in place. How old will you be in 20 years? What kind of housing will you need? Possibly a small condo and a cute 3-story apartment building that developers could never build today due to zoning restrictions, like where my neighbor, who's very much against this plan, lives. Why can we not build housing like hers for future neighbors? Great leaders don't think about what's best for one part of a community. They think about what's best for the collective whole. Diversity is our strength. Diversity of ages, races, sexual identities, incomes, backgrounds, cultures, transportation options, restaurants, and housing. Thank you.
I'm Paul Hickson. I live at 209 West Indiana. And I was up here last week, and I listened. I'm an IT guy. James knows me, Mary Alice knows me professionally. I worked 50 years for the University of Illinois in a variety of capacities. I attended a meeting at the Y where candidate Williams was talking about being sensitive to neighborhoods. And we pretty immediately connected. I have a social activism background, and I work with the UCDB board. I work with the Campus Community Compact, and I'm very passionate about how we use IT resources to help all citizens. And those citizens may be youth at risk. They may be senior folks who are concerned about how do I use my portal and not have my identity ripped. But I'm not going to talk about that tonight. I'm here because I live in Woona, and I spoke at our last meeting, and I listened also. And I'm going to presumptively, I hope it's okay, Mayor, say that you and I kind of immediately did make a connection on the need to use IT resources for social good. With that basis of commonality, I also noticed another characteristic of you, and that is you are a consensus person. I think I told you, you reminded me of the Charlie Ziproad I used to know at Busey Bank. Everybody could approach Charlie on any problem. He wasn't partisan. He was an Urbana guy. I'm here tonight about Woona, and I listened as well as spoke against the Imagine Urbana program. I spoke against it because I do live in Woona, and I do think that as it was presented and it is being discussed in WUNA circles, I've seen the emails that are going on, you may have as well, Mayor, where folks say they talked to you and you didn't deliver. Well, I disagree. You have sought a middle way. I heard you at the last meeting say that you supported the amendment that Mary Alice had brought forward. But as I listened, I also understood that Councilperson Colasetti.
Don't forget to speak into the microphone for on the record.
You also had needs of your neighborhoods that were reflected in the wording that the city staff was talking about, the urban planners. I think that there's a way to modify the proposals that my dear friends and WUNA reps, fellow persons, Esther and the other people who met with you and are now saying you didn't deliver, to satisfy them and you. And that is a suggestion that and unfortunately my pad went to sleep here. I don't have the wording right in front of me. But there were 3 things they were looking for. And if it could be modified in the proposals that you have offered, Mary Alice, and may even offer again tonight, that there were 3 things. And if the first 2 of them could be modified to say that those would be maintained in wards where there is a clear demonstration of support for them. That would allow your ward, Mayor Wilkin, or Congress, this is Wilkin, and Colasetti, that your needs would be represented and that the needs of the folks in WUNA would be represented. That's my suggestion.
All right. Are there any additional, all right.
Good evening. My name is Ben Leroy and I am a homeowner. My name is Ben Leroy and I am a homeowner. The home I own is in a Champaign neighborhood similar to West Urbana, and so I am here to stand in solidarity with my fellow members of the property owning class, in particular with my WUNA homeowner friends, against the Imagine Urbana Comprehensive Plan. I am 37 years old, which means I came of age during the Great Recession, like so many of my generation did. Those were tough times for many people, but not so much for me. My parents had good jobs and supported me through college and 2 graduate degrees. In my mid-20s, I inherited some money from a relative, and at the end of 2016, I used that money for a 20% down payment on the house I still own and live in today. These are not advantages that many people of my generation had at that stage of life. Am I a fortunate person? Yes. Do I wish that everyone in my generation had received similar privileges along the way? Of course. But they didn't, and so the question arises, where are they to live? I can tell you this much, not in my backyard. Allowing modestly scaled multifamily housing to incrementally develop across West Urbana and other neighborhoods like mine would be a travesty. First and foremost, think of the aesthetics. When I bought my house 9 years ago, I acquired title to my property. But in addition to acquiring that title, I also acquired a sense of entitlement. I looked at a couple dozen houses during my search, and I bought the one in the location I liked the best. Even though I specifically avoided HOAs and thus don't have a legal right to control what my neighbors do with their properties, I still feel like the city has an obligation to act as my HOA and make sure the neighborhood changes as little as possible now that I live in it. I pay taxes, don't I? And I like the way things look just fine. If people want things to change so much, they should go do it in a neighborhood that's less special than mine, or dig up a cornfield or something. Leave my neighborhood alone. Second, there are already enough apartment buildings in town. As a former municipal land use planner and a current planning law instructor at the University of Illinois, I can read the vacancy numbers in the federal statistics just like my WUNA friends can. And like my WUNA friends, I can also ignore that the sampling period covers COVID and that there are inexplicably wide discrepancies between reported vacancy rates in Champaign and Urbana. By the way, please don't try to nail us down on what the proper citywide vacancy rate is at which we would support multifamily housing in West Urbana. And please don't ask us about the housing scramble that had many of my students in a panic for yet another leasing cycle. My WUNA friends and I both care about vacancy rates because we care about tenants, so long as we don't have too many living in our neighborhoods. When vacancy rates are not low, landlords need to compete for tenants on price, maintenance, and service. You might think this is good for tenants, but it's actually bad for them for several reasons that I won't explain, so please don't ask me. If anything, we should be pushing vacancy rates as close to zero as possible so that tenants can enjoy the thrill of the hunt during leasing season and the joys of living with roommates until their 30s. By the way, you may be wondering, what about all those vacant bedrooms in all the West Urbana houses occupied by empty nesters? Is that a vacancy rate you should care about? Of course not. When a single couple lives in a 4-bedroom house, it's inaccurate to consider their extra bedrooms vacant. Is a room really vacant when it has a Stairmaster, stacks of boxes, and a twin bed that gets cleared off every Thanksgiving when the adult children come to visit? Third, I want to talk about affordability. As someone who sympathizes with the less fortunate, I think housing affordability is super important, but there are a couple caveats to that. First of all, please don't put any affordable housing near my house. It's important to me that my property value stays as high as possible so that I can access easy credit and make a lot of money when I sell in a couple decades. Additionally, please don't raise my taxes to subsidize new affordable housing. Definitely subsidize it, but don't use my money to do it. Finally, don't listen to people who say that new multifamily housing prompts existing multifamily housing to lower rents so that it can compete on price versus newness. True, this phenomenon has been documented in housing markets across the country, which is why, again, it's really important that you ignore the people who draw your attention to that. Ultimately, I'm here because I care. I love my neighborhood just as my friends love West Urbana. It's very comforting to live in a place where the government excludes new housing. It means I get to have it both ways. I can call on my government to improve our community in line with my progressive values, but I can also lobby you to not do it in a way that materially impacts me. You may notice that I'm a couple decades younger than most of the people who have spoken against Imagine Urbana. God willing, I'll still be here in 2055, manning the barricade against the type of housing and the type of people that belong in someone else's neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Now that we can get rid of the sarcasm, my name is Michael Pleva. I've lived in Urbana, 708 West Iowa Street for over 50 years. And I'm a member of WUNA, and I'm proud of it. And that it is a neighborhood in which the neighborhood itself created the most diverse and welcoming neighborhood in our city. We have a neighborhood by its residents that received a national award. We're the only one of the best 10 neighborhoods to live in south of I-80. This was not done by city staff or our planning commission. It was done perhaps in opposition to them. The most, over my years living here, my greatest worry and the greatest problem that I have is not my neighbors, it's our planning commission. And the thing that disappoints me so much in this entire process with Imagine Urbana is that you have before you hundreds of people in opposition to the way the planning commission presented this material. We asked for maps. Maps are not given. We ask for data. Data are not given. We make suggestions. We are ignored. Our planning commission has a level of condescension that is beyond belief. It is, you have the opportunity to either maintain a city that is going to go forward or become under the boot of absentee landlords and developers. What makes me most disappointed is the fact that the City Council does not seem to care about the presentation given to you by your constituency. Look at the number in the public record of people with real concerns about their city. Not sarcastic stupidity, but real concerns about how you maintain the city. I think what makes me most disturbed is that when the Planning Commission was being developed, especially in the Imagine Urbana plans in the last administration, who is appointed to be a leader in the area? Well, it was the former CEO of Fox Development Corporation. That should tell you something. I mean, we've got the Fox taking care of the hen house. This is not the way to go. Why does a developer, a person with a CEO with a developer background have more impact upon you than your constituencies? Please listen to the people. We're not against change. Woona has changed tremendously, and in most cases for the good. I have, in our city, we have the highest marginal, we have the lowest average rate of property value. We have the lowest home ownership level in the city of Urbana as compared to our adjacent cities. We have the highest vacancy rate compared to the vacancies, double the state average, and we have the highest median property taxes. This should tell you something. Please listen to the people and don't discard our opinions and only accept what is being presented to you by the development people. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephen McGuire. I live in Urbana. I'm not sure if I'm in the Woona neighborhood. Live in town country. I can say this. I don't have a rich, fancy home in Urbana. If I did, I'd say this. Put affordable housing in my backyard. There is always a dynamic in certain city council meetings where people say, I want affordable housing, but not in my backyard. You either want it or you don't, because it's never the case that when city council proposes affordable housing, the people whose backyard it's going to be in go, yes, please do, or don't show up to city council meetings. I only came here accidentally, seeing the room packed, and was disgusted by some of the things I heard. Then there's another dynamic that frequently in these kinds of meetings, there are dog whistles about the kind of people that live in affordable housing. I live in town country. It doesn't matter your income, it matters what kind of person you are. And if you're so concerned about your neighbors also being rich, you're not a Christian, plain simple. You know, Jesus said to the rich young ruler, give all your possessions and sell them to the poor. I don't hold that highest standard. But if you're the kind of person who says that, you know, you don't want the kind of people living in affordable housing to be near your neighborhood, or you don't want affordable housing built near you, not that you're going to live in it, of course, but you know, apparently housing being more affordable means the people who can afford it are more dangerous, then you're disgusting. Just plain simple. And about the feelings of townspeople voicing to you, you've got to get done what you've got to get done. You know, normally I'm for listening to the public, but honestly, when the public has conflicted values, you've got to choose yours. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Eric Sachs. A lot of red herrings presented tonight. The historic neighborhoods of Urbana, including West Urbana, East Urbana, the Dr. Ellis subdivision, are under tremendous pressure from developers. It's not a new problem, but we're at a crux here, right? This comprehensive plan, if it goes forward with the current language, will undoubtedly enable much greater development in these older neighborhoods. And these older, Urbana as a whole only has 30% of its housing stock as owner occupied. 60 or more percent, more than 60% is rental. So we're at a crossroads. Are we going to lose the last owner occupied houses in these historic neighborhoods? How this plan goes will determine that over time, right? It'll be incremental if it goes forward as planned, maybe 10 years, maybe 15, but you'll lose it all. Why? Because those are the least expensive houses in Urbana for the most part. They're close to the university and other major employers. And so those are the most valuable houses for a developer to snatch up because it's inexpensive and then to build on. But what are we losing if we do that? We're losing the opportunity for young people, a little bit older than most of this crowd, to purchase their first house and develop wealth over time. That is the way people have in the US traditionally accumulated most of their wealth, is through equity in their homes. So if we're going to make everybody a renter, and a renter of high income, unaffordable luxury housing, which is typically what goes in when new development is put in, will we be helping with affordability or helping to have a more diverse community? I ask you to go and look at West Urbana and say, is this not the most diverse community in terms of housing options in all of Urbana? Certainly is. So we need to protect these historic neighborhoods, not just West Urbana, but all of them, and give an opportunity for people to actually own a home and live by students and live by other renters and have this really diverse, amazing community. And I hope that's what you'll do tonight. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Coco Gabhart, and this is my husband, Edgar Mejia. And we're homeowners in Urbana. So my husband is a student at the university, and I'm a small business owner. We rented for 10 years before buying our first home here in Urbana. And one of our top values is charity. And so when we bought our home, we deliberately bought a multifamily property because we wanted to be able to create housing for other people. Now, a lot of times policies are made in a way that benefits one situation, but something that I appreciate about Urbana is all of the ways that policies have been created so that we can all be charitable towards one another. And so that's why I support Imagine Urbana, because I love the idea that we can create more ways to be charitable towards all kinds of people, all kinds of situations, not just one person in one situation.
Just a little bit to add. I actually was an undergrad here back in 2018, and then I came back to do my PhD. So right now I'm doing my PhD in material science and engineering. And I think that instead of seeing the world as, okay, the students are just passing by, I think that there are a lot of people, even in this room, who have been students here, really became part of the community, and now they're adding a lot. So I think that that's another big thing to think about, like where is the investment happening and if those people are going to give back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that'd like to speak?
My goodness, this mic is tall.
I will just briefly pause you. I am having some sort of difficulty with the timer. I'm unable to stop it. It's gonna beep when that hits 0. I do have a timer pulled up on my phone, and I will hold up like one finger when you have 1 minute left. But I apologize that I don't have a better solution in the interim. So there's like another 16 seconds and it's gonna beep.
Hi, my name is Jamie Tiger. I'm a student, and I'm here today to support the Imagine Urbana plan. As someone who's lived in the area my entire life, I've loved and appreciated the city of Urbana for its history and its diversity, but as someone who has recently developed problems walking, I found it increasingly difficult to explore and love what the city has to offer. I support this plan because of its points to increase accessibility, enhance and preserve the natural environment to provide clean air, resources, and natural beauty, and promote neighborhood centers that support small businesses and third spaces that are accessible and enjoyable for all.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak? All right.
All right, mic check. Okay, cool. I wrote something down this time. I was here last week, I was here the week before that, and I'm here on behalf of housing in the Urbana community. We got to get this comprehensive plan done. We got to get Lincoln Avenue done, which is not housing, but it's also something that I like. So let's just dive right into it. I'm going to read off the script this time, so a little less from the heart, but that's okay. I still wrote this. I'm here again tonight to speak in support of the Comprehensive Plan Lincoln Avenue Corridor Study. I may be just a student, but I really do love this community, and I want to see it grow more vibrant, affordable, and a place that everyone can live in the coming decades, which these items help the town to do. I know there's some heated opinions and skepticism about the plan from residents, from council members over the comprehensive plan specifically, but I think I can convince you that this is a net positive for us, and not even a net positive. There are trade-offs here. There are things that we'll have to negotiate, but we can do this in a civil manner. We can do it democratically, and it's going to be awesome. If we execute it right, we can have this comprehensive plan lay out a vision for Urbana that really is for everyone, that everyone can benefit from. But let me walk you through it. By the way, I mentioned I'm a student, and I know that a lot of people have opinions about students, and I just want to say very quickly, students are not liabilities. They are also not consumers that are just here to run the Taco Bell and pay property taxes. They are assets that we need to be investing in. We need to make this town affordable and welcoming to them, or we're risking the best talent that we could get in the state of Illinois walking right out the door. So let me just get that out of the way. First, I want to address some concerns made by council last time regarding amendments to protect predominantly single-family neighborhoods. From what I understand, WUNA would like the plan to not recommend townhomes and small apartments in the N1 place type. Ignoring the fact that legalizing these housing types would go a long way to diversify the housing stock and create more affordability in the community, I can't help but notice that West Urbana already has some townhomes and small apartments. This is not like new information. Now, I do understand WUNA's concern. Let's be real. I know that change is scary, and they have mentioned that WUNA has changed in the past, and it will change again in the future. And I feel that their concern is that maybe their voices aren't being heard enough. I've heard a lot of concerns that, you know, the plan was not presented in a way that was navigable, and I agree with that. That website is horrible, and it is not a fun plan to document, but I disagree that there were not maps provided. There are maps there, there's graphs, there's data. There's been a lot of time and effort put into this plan. If we need to like bind it up into like a leather-bound book and distribute it to all the members of the community, if that's what it takes for the plan to pass, which, by the way, let's pass it tonight, but just so we're at it, we can raise a little revenue that way. It'd be a good thing to do to get the word out. Anyway, let me get back to the script. So, yeah. I understand the idea that rapacious developers are going to come in, they're going to make only luxury high-rises, but let me be really clear here, and this is something that is public information. The plan does not condone luxury high-rises being built in West Urbana or in any N1 place type. This is a very modest proposal. And if done correctly, it can really enhance all the N1 place types with more neighbors that are willing to contribute to the community. Renter or not, we all have a stake in the success of Urbana, and not only should we be happy that people want to move here, but we have a chance to open up new opportunities to existing residents to live in more affordable housing types that fit their needs. New construction is not affordable to new or to lower income families. I agree with that. But the response to that is not to ban new construction or try to finagle our way around neighborhoods changing at all. No, if you want neighborhoods to stay unaffordable, the best way you can do that is by banning new construction and different types of housing. So closing the door to new construction in a university that is increasing enrollment, as someone else mentioned, is the ideal way to make housing unaffordable, not just for students, but the entire region. And no one is advocating for everyone to be a renter for their whole lives. I certainly don't. And luckily, the plan does not recommend that. So there's a lot of strong feelings about housing in this plan and confusion about where and when, what kind of new housing is appropriate. And it seems to me that passing this plan will also kick off the housing study that we desperately need. And passing this plan does not mandate any zoning changes. So this is not all happening at once. So hear me out. Let's pass the plan tonight. I think that enough work has been done in terms of outreach, in terms of research, in terms of delivery on the plan, and its recommendations are largely representative of the community, regardless of what some more outspoken critics might be saying tonight. There's been a lot of work put into this. I think it's a good plan. Let's pass it tonight. Then let's get that housing study going. We can get more information on housing needs in Urbana. We can understand the vacancy rate. We can understand affordability, and it'll be all good. Once we have that in front of us, we can start making zoning changes that are official, because again, this plan does not put anything concretely on the board. We need more information, but a good first step is going to be passing this plan, getting those ideas out here so that we can actually have the these discussions in the future. I only have 30 seconds. Let me finish this up. First, small business. The WUNA also opposes the small business amendment, or the small business edition. We got to have those. Both my parents are small business owners. They wouldn't have been able to do that if small businesses were banned in their neighborhood. So we got to have that. I don't know why you don't want to walk to a coffee shop, people in WUNA, but I promise you it's amazing. And I'll end just by saying this is a very modest plan. It's the next best step forward to a better Urbana. It's only an advisory document, and we'll have plenty more fights. I'll be there, you'll be there, WUNA will be there, and we're still going to brawl it out. So thank you. Please pass the plan, and also Lincoln Avenue corridor.
All right, are there any additional public input from the audience?
Hello. Hi. I'll try to make this short, but my name is Myra Stevens, and I'm here in support of the Imagine Urbana plan, as well as the Lincoln Avenue corridor study, but I'll probably be speaking more towards Imagine Urbana tonight. But I just want to start off by saying that I'm a long-term resident of Urbana. I've lived here for 21 years. I currently live in Ward 7, but I've also lived in Ward 3, and just in a couple days I'll be moving to Ward 1 to live in my new apartment. But yeah, I'm currently going to be a senior at the University of Illinois. I just so happen to be studying urban planning. So yeah, I feel like my perspective today is pretty, I guess, unique. But yeah, I have a lot of friends who have already spoken or will speak to more of the planning side of why we should be supporting this plan. But I was hoping to speak today to more of my experience as a resident of Urbana. Something that I really wanted to emphasize was that Urbana desperately needs structure. At the moment, Champaign dominates in just about every single way, and they're constantly making investments into their community that are planting the seeds to make incredible impacts for their future. The fact is, whether we like it or not, Champaign-Urbana is rapidly growing, and we need the resources to be able to be ready for part of that growth and not get left behind. Again, I'm not here to speak much towards the planning side of this plan, but I did want to quickly note that by voting for this plan, we wouldn't be just automatically kind of just like, there wouldn't just be like, another copy of the dean just popping up by some professor's nice single family home. But this plan would rather give us the option to be able to kind of explore the idea of potentially supporting some more, middle housing that Urbana kind of desperately lacks. To kind of wrap it up, I personally feel like Urbana's been making some very, very positive steps in the right direction. This year alone, H Mart opening was probably one of the busiest times I've seen downtown since the Sweet Corn Festival. I feel like we have so much potential for Urbana to keep its strong sense of culture, community, and independence that makes it so unique. But by pushing away this comprehensive plan or any sort of structure moving forward, I guess while pushing this plan could maybe make us feel safe now, I think it would have pretty devastating effects on the future of our community. But yeah, I appreciate all of your time. But yeah, I strongly urge you to vote in favor of Urbana's future.
Hi, my name's David Huber. I'm a resident of Urbana. I spoke last week. Still support the sentiment I shared. Specific points. that were raised in conversation over the last couple weeks. So we want to stick it to developers for building luxury housing. Well, who really is harmed in that? I build housing, I'm not going to be harmed. I own real estate, I'm mobile, I'm flexible, I can go to the next place that, you know, permits investment. Let's be careful to not hate the baker and forego bread, because it's not going to be those people who are harmed by not building housing. Second, expensive housing. New housing is going to be too expensive. I build and I own housing that would be considered expensive. I have the great luxury here in that my tenants contribute a lot to our community. They work for our hospitals, they work for our university. We in our community pay people six-figure salaries. We pay them high salaries. Why don't we want them to live in our city? Why don't we want them to live next to or across the street, in the case of one of my tenants, deliver their child, to be in the room, come in after they've delivered the child. This is what we want. Our city pays high salaries to our police, to our fire, other people. Why don't we want them here? Let's give them the housing. And you know what? When we build that housing for them, they're not taking the housing that is for people of lower income, that, without that newer housing, they're going to be living in. Vacancy. I'm confused why that is such a bad thing. I can speak from experience. Banks don't allow me to underwrite a loan with 100% occupancy. They usually require me to do 1 month out of every 12 months, a year of vacancy, meaning that's unrealistic to assume 100% vacancy. So, that's like 8-point-something vacancy, et cetera. That's kind of part of the system in a way. Is regarding like just complaint about vacant houses. Well, I've complained, people who work for the city, they know that I complain often about vacant houses, but I also buy those vacant houses, and they often need to be redeveloped because they're so far gone that, there's no bringing them back. So we need a plan for development because many of these vacant houses just cannot be brought back to life. And if they can, as so many people in Woona would like to see some of these boarding houses be reconverted back into single families, well, those are also not going to be affordable to people. The amount of investment, it may not be new, but the investment to bring back these old houses to modern single family use is really going to be outside the budgets of most people's. Anyways, to close, something that's really come into focus tonight in this meeting, which is really great, is that I've lived here for 7 years and I've wondered just these people keep coming back from Woona, it's like the same thing. And it's like, I talk to people and they're like, they've been doing this for 20, 30 years. And I just think, well, why hasn't it worked? They keep saying the same thing and the city council keeps kind of doing the same thing. And, they come tonight and they say, like, we own you, Mr. Mayor, you told us, it's like, it's not working. And what tonight has shown is that there is a large cohort of optimistic people, mostly young, and they are outside of this binary of homeowners versus renter. This thing that has kept us stuck as a city, apparently well beyond my time living here, but many of us here, can get beyond what has kept us stuck as a city. And this is the important thing about the plan. We have to get beyond, I don't want to say Woona, but unfortunately the constituents there are the ones that are blocking change, and not just change, but mentally they are blocking us from thinking beyond what exists, okay? It's called Imagine Urbana, and probably the most damning thing I'll say about the opposition is that they cannot imagine Urbana. They are more afraid about what has been done rather than thinking about what could be done. That's our job. Thank you.
All right. Are there any additional members of the public present?
Hello, my name is Rowan Abzug. I am a student at the university. I've also been a resident of Champaign-Urbana for 17 years. I tried writing something, it did not work. So I'm just gonna say a couple things that have been on my mind in the last couple years as I have learned more about the world I live in and specifically the city. I feel like recently I've gotten to see a lot more of that world instead of being, in the back seat or passenger seat of my parents' car, wherever we happen to go for 5 days a week, every week. I've had a lot more chance to explore, and I've gotten to see a lot of things that I think are really cool in this city, and I wish that people got to see those things more. And the advocacy for walkability that is shown in the comprehensive plan would allow that. It reduces those barriers for everyone, and it helps balance that scale that allows everyone to be a part of the community we are trying to build. I think that the studies that we are putting in place for housing and, I actually did write this part down. Let's see here. Infill development and specifically surveying for safety and walkability, trying to get that, the inclusion of the public could be really great to see a good city grow more than it already has. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim. I'm a longtime resident of Urbana, and I'm also a small business owner in Urbana and also house owner in Urbana. And then today I've seen so much growth in Urbana in the past few years, specifically in our downtown, and I believe all the city councils have agreed to that. And I don't think that's by chance. I think there is a momentum, and that momentum inspires more to make things happen. And my question is that momentum, can that momentum continue with our current population? We have all these new businesses, but can we sustain them with our current populations? That's for one. And second is, as we all know, our property taxes keep increasing every year. Is that sustainable, or is that killing the opportunities for more people that wants to move in our town? And so with that, I would say, today I heard a gentleman say, listen to the people. And I think this year is an interesting year, and we're at this crossroad where a lot of young people wants to participate and contribute to our great city in every avenue, and especially in city planning, I think. And so I would say, from what I observe, and I think this is a great news, which is, can we give them the power, democratize the ability to become a developer? And I heard one of the gentlemen say that, they are afraid of developer coming in and snatch up all the properties and develop bigger buildings. I want to provide a solution for that. How about we give powers to every single homeowners in Urbana and their backyard, I'll just say that, ability for single-family housing and zoning, that they could build a cottage, right, for their in-laws, for their parents. We could build a better community that way, that we have people that we know that can stay, with us. It's just an infill in those units that can dramatically create the density and the opportunities. And with more supplies, potentially we could decrease the property tax. And the developer probably don't want to come in because it's already filled, and we don't need to sell our home. We could use what we already have. And so this is a perspective I would like to propose. And I'm really glad that today so many young people come out and speak on these issues. They are clearly passionate. And I hope that we could pass the comprehensive plan as it is without any other more restrictions right now for the single family homes, so that we could provide opportunities for these young families and young people for them to buy in Urbana, build in Urbana, and make things happen in Urbana. Thank you.
All right. I will start to read the public input emails. I'm just hesitant. All right, we're going for it. All right. Honorable members of Urbana City Council, please do not pass the Lincoln Avenue Corridor Study in its present form. If you do pass this plan as submitted, as submitted for your consideration on July 21st, 2025, please put a restriction on its implementation to require that all physical changes to any of the intersections included in the plans first be made using temporary traffic control measures such as removable curbs, bollards, and other non-permanent devices. No matter how confident the traffic engineers who designed the plan may be, there will surely be unanticipated responses by pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists to the proposed changes. Going ahead and making those changes permanent from the outset will likely result in wasted time and money when alterations are required. I reviewed the Lincoln Avenue Corridor Study as it was made available online in May of this year and wrote to J.D. McClanahan regarding several aspects that concern me. I received a prompt, thorough, and courteous reply, which I very much appreciated. However, reviewing the version of this study that is in the packet of the City Council agenda for the 21st of July, 2025, my concerns remain. One, the traffic study that was done confined itself to Lincoln and Busey Avenue with no consideration of Orchard Street or Kohler Ave. Thus, the bulk of the area that is likely to feel impacts of the proposed changes has not been studied, and you have no baseline of assessing the impact from whatever changes are made. Please commission a thorough study of traffic patterns in the adjacent neighborhood before proceeding with this plan. This study should be done while students at the University of Illinois are in town for obvious reasons. Number two, no mention is made in the plan of the current conditions of the street in the residential neighborhood to the east of Lincoln Avenue. Rerouting traffic from Lincoln through this neighborhood will undoubtedly accelerate the deterioration of these streets, some of which are already in poor conditions. Is the city of Urbana prepared to deal with this issue? Also, increased traffic at the smaller intersections will likely lead to complications for people moving through those intersections, which may require effectively enlarging the intersections by restricting street parking close to those intersections. Has the city considered the ramifications of such changes? As you debate and discuss the Lincoln Ave Corridor Study, I hope you will heed the one admonition that we would all do well and keep in mind anytime we get behind the wheel of a car. Side a bicycle or stroll across an intersection, proceed with caution. Louise Bergen. Next, please read this message out loud as public input. Dear City Council members and Mayor Williams, I am appalled at the lack of rigor in the appointment of Darius White for city administrator. This individual had not been discussed until the News Gazette article indicating he was to be appointed was published, merely 4 days ahead of the vote. No local, regional, or national search was conducted, and there has been no mention of his credentials or work experience. How many people has he managed? How big of a budget has he managed? What is his management style? The role of city administrator is a big job for anyone, let alone someone without extensive management and financial decision-making experience. In the News Gazette article on July 24th, Mayor Williams stated, I was confident that even if we were to do a national search, that he would have been a top candidate. He was extremely qualified for the position. Then you factor in his love for the city of Urbana. It just made perfect sense. This cannot possibly be true. one of the hundreds of millions of people in this nation, or even the hundreds of thousands in Central Illinois region. There was not even one other candidate to consider alongside Darius White. This action appears to be nepotism of the highest order and reflects very poorly on the transparency and judgment of the new Williams administration. I strongly urge the council to vote no on the appointment of Darius White for the city administrator at this time and conduct a search and interview process that assures the right person is selected, given the huge responsibility of this role and the best use of tax dollars for the salary of this position. Sincerely, a Ward 2 resident. One more. All right. Please read my comment out loud during public input. The central thrust of Imagine Urbana is to promote gentrification of older neighborhoods. The plan avoids use of the word gentrification because of its negative connotation, which is richly deserved because gentrification eliminates lower cost housing to make way for higher cost housing. It saddens me that some progressives on the city council consider the desire to preserve single-family housing to be snobby, enlisted, exclusionary, or racist. I wish your progressive perspective would inform you that most homeowners have all of their wealth and most of their debt invested in their homes. They are justified in wanting zoning to protect them from having a business open right next door to their house. The developers who are buying up single-family homes are only buying the lower-cost, affordable houses. While you can't stop developers from buying the lower-cost single-family homes for conversion of rentals, you should refrain from adopting policies that make it even more profitable for developers to do just that. Nationwide, the homeownership rate for white non-Hispanic Americans is 73.3 compared to 42.1 for African Americans. If you are truly concerned about racial disparity in housing, instead of perpetuating the myth that single-family zoning is racist, you should include in the comprehensive plan strategies for making homeownership more affordable. Months ago, hundreds of Urbana residents asked you to postpone approval of Imagine Urbana until after you have obtained the necessary data to make an informed decision. I am dismayed that you have chosen to ignore that sensible suggestion. Esther Pat.
I've got a few more that Mayor Williams passed to me to help read tonight. So the first one says, hello, Urbana City Council. Thank you for your hard work. I ask that my email letter be read aloud during the City Council meeting tomorrow evening, July 28th. Thank you. I write to you as a concerned citizen about a number of things. One, my family and I live in the 800 block of Indiana Avenue. With the new Lincoln Corridor plan for our block in particular, I'm concerned for the safety of my family. We often are anxious backing down our long, steep driveway because cars will come flying down our block from Lincoln Avenue. It will not change because the 700 block has turned into a two-way street and the 800 block is a one-way street. I fear for the safety of my children and those on our block because we have no protection. The previous version, where the 800 block of Indiana was closed off, is safer for people and pedestrians. People use Indiana Avenue as a thoroughfare to get to Ray Street because it is one of the few that connect directly. Also, since the hostel at 1204 Lincoln has been approved, we will have even more traffic. How are all these pieces connected? Two, I agree with the rezoning laws to contain apartment buildings, townhomes, and businesses, not just single-family homes and duplexes. One, could we also consider co-housing as an option if other fraternity and sorority homes go for sale? These are more suitable, community-minded, and supportive of those who want to live with community but also want their own space. Two, I do have concerns, however. There should be protocols in place to make sure that people purchasing these spaces, apartment buildings, businesses, et cetera, are actually people who will live and work in the community, not just millionaires who want to make money. The purpose of these structures and homes are to make living affordable in Urbana, which is increasingly not. If millionaires or corporations purchase these spaces, they won't be affordable. The cost for housing will continue to increase. Our property taxes have increased dramatically in the last 5 years since we've moved here, upwards of 40%. As a civil service official and an educator, we soon will no longer be able to afford our home. Our taxes continually increase, but our pay does not. I have not had a raise since 2020, not even a cost of living increase. I understand the idea of property taxes would mean that we would make money off selling up our home. We don't anticipate selling our home in the future, so we won't benefit from that. I'm all for taxes as they pay for our amazing library and park services and make it possible for our schools to exist. However, can there be a different way to tax people? Could corporations and/or landlords be taxed at a different rate? Or people who own multiple properties, can they be taxed at a higher rate? Is there property tax relief for civil servants such as us? What are other cities doing to provide property tax relief? I enjoy living in Urbana, but it's getting harder and harder to stay here. Thank you for your time and consideration. Warmly, Sisapon Ringini. Next one, dear City Council members, Wu, Evans, Hersey, Colasetti, Bishop, Wilkin, and Quisenberry, and Mayor Williams. The email below from residents in West Urbana reflects continued concern about the Imagine Urbana Comprehensive Plan. One of those concerns is the designation of corridor neighborhood CN along the western edge of West Urbana. This is a newly named place type for Urbana intended for increased density. Residents below in their letter ask for elimination of CN, which I can understand. It's not yet clear what CN will entail. We only have an expanded list of CN place types uses, which leaves the door open for uneven development as well as singular large projects, both of which may be disconnected from and negatively impactful to the surrounding context. CN developments would likely increase the demand for roadway usage along Lincoln Corridor. I'm not sure if those increased demands were included in the carrying capacity analysis for Lincoln Avenue. For these reasons, I think it's wise to hold off on designating the long stretch of West Urbana along Lincoln Avenue as a corridor neighborhood. Just as Philo Road is recognized as needing a neighborhood plan ASAP, I think this corridor also needs a neighborhood plan ASAP. In the study, I would seek input from parcel owners in the newly designated CN boundary, as well as neighboring N2 and N1 parcel owners throughout the corridor. A neighborhood plan would create greater shared understanding of what changes are desired and feasible while not eroding current investments in the adjacent area. To note, it was encouraging to see that limiting parcel aggregation was added into the general plan, which will help in this process. I share these comments from both professional and personal viewpoints. As a landscape architect, I have experience with planning and design of urban community and campus districts. Further, as someone who lives on the north side of 800 West Nevada, the Imagine Plan shows 3 place types, CN, N2, and N1, converging on my one block. Thank you for reconsidering the decision about a new place type here before the corridor undergoes a neighborhood plan. With regards, Mary Pat McGuire. And then the letter is submitted, was submitted by multiple people, but I believe is to be read as part of this comment. Read as much as I can. Dear Mayor Williams and Urbana City Council members, your records of public comment demonstrate clearly that West Urbana neighbors have serious concerns about Imagine Urbana. These concerns persist despite recent very minor revisions to the plan that are not responsive to repeated input from Urbana residents. We are not alone in our concerns. People in neighborhoods in North Urbana, East Urbana, and Behringer Commons are concerned, and many have provided their input. If West Urbana residents have been more vocal, it's because changes affecting our neighborhood come up on your agenda far more often than changes for anyone else in the city. It seems our input has virtually no effect. We submitted a petition with over 200 signatures, including 29 homeowners in Behringer Commons who agreed with WUNA member requests. Individually and collectively, we asked you to conduct a housing study before approving a 20-year plan, and there was either no answer or the answer was no. You will do a study later. A number of people have suggested that you at least gather the data that you already have in-house and the information that you can obtain from the Housing Authority and the Regional Planning Commission. We've still seen no data. Weeks before the May 28th open house, we asked you for maps of individual neighborhoods to show more specifically what you have in mind. No new maps. We've asked you for any data to support continued assertions that more construction of duplexes and multi-unit housing will create affordable housing and help reduce housing inequity. There are no data supporting that assertion we can find, nor have you provided any. The only data available show that Urbana's rental housing vacancy rate has risen to 13%, twice that of neighboring cities, the state, and the nation. Even in the face of that, Urbana landlords are not reducing rent to fill vacancies. high vacancies appears to be the business model for the owners of the largest amount of rental properties in Urbana. People from our neighborhood have attended numerous meetings, spoken out, or submitted comments to Imagine Urbana online comments since 2021. We've still not seen the requested document or an internet link to read all of the public comments that have been submitted. Neighborhood meetings in September 2024, at which time there were still no maps for the public to view or comment on. Numerous Plan Commission study sessions in 2024 and 2025, 4 public hearings, and the May 28th open house. 2 mayoral forums, including one at which then candidate Williams supported maintaining the fabric of individual neighborhoods, and the rest will be submitted as part of the record of this meeting.
All right, that will conclude. Okay.
Hello, my name is Alex Ularic. I'm a renter in Champaign, and I just wanted to speak in support of Imagine Urbana Plan. I kind of wanted to touch on the vacancy rate that everybody's been talking about, just because I actually got curious about it and went to the census data website to look at it, and it's not quite exactly what everybody's talking about. So the 13.6% is the vacant housing units. That is the percentage of vacant housing units, and that is based on the 2023 American Community Survey, which is a 5-year estimate from 2019 to 2023. The homeowner vacancy rate for that survey is 2.1%, and the rental vacancy rate is 10.1%. So the comparable Champaign American Community Survey that is for that 5 years is 12% for vacant housing units, and the homeowner vacancy rate is 1.2%, rental vacancy rate is 9.3%, so very comparable. But further, since Champaign is a big enough city, there are 1-year estimates that we can also go off of that are a little bit more recent data. So 2022, we have 13.1% vacant housing units, and 2023, we have 6.2%. So we do have a vacancy rates for homeowners for the 2022 is 0.5%. Rental vacancy rate is 6.1%. There's no data for that for 2023, unfortunately. No new data will be available until September. But regardless, this really points to a lack of recent and the context data that we need in order to really tackle this problem. Like, why? And the fact that we're, some of the public is trying to say, hey, we need to throw some of the tools we have out of the toolbox by limiting what we can build and which neighborhoods we can build in. It's kind of like trying to say that, like we're gonna throw some of the tools out of the toolbox, so we have to hammer a nail with a tape measure. That doesn't make sense. So I think that no neighborhood should be, immune from change, that we shouldn't be prioritizing certain neighborhoods over others. We should really just be trying to address the individual issues of each neighborhood as they are and keeping it like context dependent. I mean, we're not looking to build high rises in West Urbana like some people might be fearing. I mean, like, it's not like everything needs to be, and to the new construction, new construction is expensive, but people will build those expensive new units and then make the cheaper units more available. Furthermore, I've been looking at other studies about, like, with Portland. They have a missing middle housing initiative, and they've done studies over the last 3 years, and it's been consistently that missing middle housing has come in at a affordable median income or price that median income earners can afford. And just sitting around doing nothing and keeping neighborhoods the same will only make prices increase. It won't make them less expensive or keep the prices at what they are. So why should we not try to build any more housing? All right, that's it.
Hello, City Council members and neighbors. I want to start off by saying that I'm in support of the Imagine Urbana Comprehensive Plan and the Lincoln Avenue Corridor Plan. My name is Emma Barrera, and this is my second year living in Urbana, and I have lived in Ward 1 for both years. I believe that the changes to the N1 zoning will be beneficial to our community in the long run and will enrich our neighborhoods alongside the proposed changes to make Lincoln Avenue from Green to Florida better for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists alike. I come from a small town in Canton, Illinois, a few hours away from here, and when I moved to Urbana, it changed my view of what a community could be, and changed my understanding of what freedom, mobility, and safety looks like within a city. My first year here, I stayed in the dorms. Unfortunately, once that time was up, if I did not have 6 trustworthy, responsible, and easygoing friends, I would be living in Champaign and not Urbana. The current housing situation in Urbana requires people like me and students like me to trust people they have known for 3 months to rent former frat houses together. The concern for affordable housing and the housing scramble is an issue that will not go away for students by ignoring it, and will not go away by zoning for more apartments far away from campus. You will simply push residents to Champaign. Additionally, I think small businesses should be added to the N1 housing. I think I'm lucky enough to live less than a block away from a locally owned cafe. This cafe has a handful of dedicated parking spots, but is constantly bustling even during the summer, simply because of its location relative to housing. Furthermore, I come from a family of small business owners. 26 years ago, my grandmother and great aunts pooled their money together to start a restaurant in my hometown, on the corner lot of a residential street. The bank told them that women couldn't run a successful business and that they would close within a year. They refused to give them the loan until my great-grandfather put their family home on lien. Thankfully, in this day and age, all barriers to their success are removed, except for the zoning restrictions. My family's restaurant is located on what is currently 2-family home zoning, and we would not be permitted to be built today, and would not be permitted to be built under the proposed changes to the Imagine Urbana plan. That would be 26 years of no birthday parties, no pre-prom dinners or family reunions, no after-school soda and sub for middle schoolers, no catering for last-minute pool parties, or after work, I just don't have the energy to cook dinners. I believe in the need for a study done on housing, open discussion and honest debate to where this housing should go, and the ability for the members of the community to create places that not only sustain themselves, but sustain the fabric of the community as a whole. This plan is not a list of absolutes, but a list of options that the variety of communities within Urbana can tailor to their needs. To quote James Baldwin, people can cry easier than they can change. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joseph Kea. I've been a resident of Urbana for about a year. I live on 805 West Oregon Street, right about 100 feet from Lincoln Avenue, and that's what I want to talk about, the corridor project. And I want to say that I'm really in favor of this project because out of the past 365 days of the year, I've crossed it 5 days a week to get to classes and to go to work over the summer. I worked on campus as well. And I really want to say that I believe that Lincoln Avenue, having driven on it, I think it serves an important purpose as like a minor artery between Windsor and the highway. And I think that it can serve this purpose without necessarily impeding on the ability for bicyclists and pedestrians to also use Lincoln Avenue. And I also think that I can speak for other students saying that Lincoln Avenue is a threshold that we cross every single day, hundreds of students back and forth across Lincoln Avenue. And I think a lot of students, including myself, would really value the safety and accessibility that we gain from that. I don't necessarily always feel safe crossing on the crosswalks because of the distance between them. It's too far and drivers will speed. And even at a light, I don't necessarily always feel safe when I see someone barreling 50 miles an hour down on Lincoln on their phone. I don't necessarily always trust that, especially one of my roommates having also witnessed the crash on Green and Lincoln so recently. But I really do think that, oh my gosh, I lost myself there. I also wanted to say that I think the addition of bike lanes is especially important. Being someone who uses like human-powered transport, not always walking to get to my classes, like biking or roller skating, not having a bike lane necessarily leaves me with me and like all my other friends who bike with no real place to exist in transit. When I was actually riding with a friend on Lincoln Avenue, we maybe went 200 feet from Oregon Street to reach the Lincoln, Illinois intersection, and we were verbally harassed for being in the road. So my question that I want to ask people who are opposed to the Lincoln Corridor Plan, what place do cyclists and human-powered transport users have in Lincoln? And I think that adding bike lanes will give us a really important place. And I also really want to add to a specific detail that I like about the plan is the choice to limit to two-way traffic with a one turn lane in the middle. I really like this choice to force drivers to drive slower in more narrow lanes that will make them more conscious of the confines that they drive within, so close to sidewalks and cyclists, which I really don't think that the design language of Lincoln Avenue as it is necessarily prioritizes the safety of the people who are on the sidewalks and crossing the road. And I really do think that it's a huge safety hazard because even though, yes, there are crosswalks at certain places, I see dozens of students every morning and every evening as I come to and from classes using the medians as a stopping point. And students will continue to use that most desired path unless they have a more accessible alternative, especially for users who do need accessibility through having like those extra sidewalks and marked crosswalks. I think it will be really important for improving safety mostly. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Solara Campbell. My family and I have been residents of Champaign-Urbana for the last 10 to 12 years. And I wanted to talk about walkability and accessibility in the Lincoln Avenue corridor and the Urbana plan in general, which I support very much. My mother is disabled and I work for a lot of disabled students, and I've talked to them a lot about why they choose to live where they do, because a lot of them are students. They live in Champaign because the sidewalks are more accessible. They choose not to go on the other side of Lincoln in Urbana because they feel terrified crossing the street. The crosswalks are so far apart that they have to go farther down, they risk missing classes, they have to leave ridiculously early. And I've seen students who are disabled with canes and can walk and cross medians doing that and risking their own safety because that's the fastest way to get across, and it's not much safer to use the crosswalks. I'm also a driver. So I've been one of those people driving along who has to slam on the brakes because a drunk student jumped in front of me and was crossing the median and their friend pushed them. I've had to slow down before stoplights and been going like 20, 25 miles per hour and still seen students jump because they're afraid that I'll hit them. I've been those students who have been hit or almost been hit, and I understand the fear and the need for accessibility so that these students can access these resources and get to classes and get where they need to go and feel safe in their own homes and their own town. It's been terrifying to just go about my day and know that I hear about a crash every other day, or to see them. And as someone with a lot of car-related trauma and family who's been in a lot of incidents and gotten disabilities because of car accidents, it's really important to me that students, faculty, staff, and just residents have access to these spaces. Especially even in Lincoln Avenue, yes, but also in just sidewalks. We have those brick roads, cracked sidewalks, wheelchairs can't get down them very easily. We have corners that kind of turn into the street that make it dangerous, especially when there's ice. There's a lot to be considered for disabled students and just people with disabilities in general. And I think it's really important that we take them into account when we consider this, and that's why I support this plan. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to everyone who spoke tonight. We will now turn to council input and communication. Are there any members of the council wishing to speak? Grace.
I got 3 things in my 3 minutes. On our presentations, just want to say that I appreciate bringing the presentations in, definitely support how we can work with and support trades apprenticeships and also other city contracting and procedures. I know Chris has been on this and we've talked about it, but also how we can incentivize or require local minority owned and operated trades employment and contracting. I think that that is all great to go together there. Also appreciated the presentation for the Deploy initiative and definitely support that program and absolutely can understand its importance. And then third thing, appreciate the public input here tonight, everyone who's come out and sent us emails tonight and throughout the process, particularly with the comprehensive plan. I think we will continue to consider the input. I definitely hear the support and concerns for the plan, and we'll be at that item later in our agenda, so stay tuned for more.
Jaya?
Thank you. I agree with what Grace just shared, but I also want to speak a little bit more to the comprehensive plan. I know there's been lots of conversation, and I deeply appreciate all the public input we've had on this topic. But I also want to flag something that's deeply concerning to me about the way we've had this conversation as a community. Our students are not to be used by this community. They are valuable members of our community, and so many of us are here because of the University of Illinois, whether it's because we work there, or whether it's because we came here as students, whether our role has changed over time. I have to admit that I'm deeply appalled by the way students have been referenced to throughout this process as just those people who are here for a while. Part of the reason that so many people who come to the university don't stay is because there's nowhere for them to live. We're not encouraging keeping that talent in this community. We're not incentivizing people to stay here because we treat them like they're not worth it. So as we're having this conversation, I do appreciate reminding folks that yes, wards 1, 2, 3, 4 throughout this community have many, many students living in our wards. When we talked about the ward maps, one of the things that was a priority for me was making sure we thought about what was going to happen to Orchard Downs, because that is a unique part of our community. When we talk about housing, I hear and appreciate the feedback from WUNA. I believe that city staff has been very responsive to making sure that language is changed in the comprehensive plan to make sure that we are not restricting the concerns that have been raised in terms of WUNA, but also not making it so that changes that need to happen in other parts of the city are not being dictated by the most influential and affluent members of this community. With all due respect, 200 people, when we're talking about thousands of people, is a small number. That 200 plus absolutely has had an impact. We've seen that change in this plan, but please do not make it so that the housing that is needed for those who are less fortunate is not available, and that your tax rates are going to continue to go up because the people who have resources continue to move to Savoy, Champaign, and Mahomet. Our taxes are high because we have a school district that needs our support. And that burden, if you see it as a burden, is falling on fewer and fewer people. We need to be able to sustainably grow in a way that is welcoming to students, that is welcoming to people at various points throughout their career, and that we keep people here. We show them that they're welcome. We show them that there's a place for them. And again, not just the voting members of our community, but all of our residents, including the most vulnerable people.
Mary Alice?
Well, I must say, I agree and disagree with some of the statements that have been said tonight. I purposefully chose to live in my neighborhood because of the students. I like the diversity. I like the energy that we have in our community because the students are here. It is a large part of our economy. It is a large part of the fabric of our community. And so I am completely against anything that discriminates against a type of renter, whether that's a student, whether that's a low-income person, whether that's a senior. Because I just want to go on the record, I completely disagree and will vote against something that discriminates on a renter based on the status that they are. That said, I will say, there are some single-family residents, mostly in Urbana. They're in lots of different areas. I will say my ward is not one of them. I have 3 single-family houses on my block. Now, I recognize that my block is not representative of the entire neighborhood. I have a fraternity next to me. I have 2 group houses. I have apartments that have been divvied up from a house. I have 3 apartment buildings on my block. I chose to live there because of the diversity. I'm not opposed to that. So while I understand my colleagues' concerns, I understand the public's concerns on both sides, I just wanted to go on the record to say that I am not opposed to any style of renter. I'm not opposed to certain kinds of housing. I am for all of them, but I'm also for people who want to own their own house. I'm for every type. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Is there any other members of council that'd like to speak? Sharice?
I just want to kind of piggyback on what everyone said, because all of that hits my ward in particularly. My ward is mostly single-family homes, mostly. I don't have any, Ward 3 actually has not actually had a whole lot of say in any kind of housing that's been put up in it, because of the simple fact that Black people were not allowed to own homes south of University Avenue for many years, and there were covenants to keep that from happening. So before you start talking about, before one may start talking about how single-family homes are keeping us in the dinosaur age, or in the age of the dinosaur, let me just say, in my neighborhood alone, one person owns 27 homes. And what I don't want to see is somebody, he get hit by a bus tomorrow and some developer just comes in and buys them all and decides to mow down or to take out everybody's home that they may be renting from him, from this person, or that they may even be trying to buy. Okay? These are people who have lived their entire lives not having the first piece of wealth, and that is owning their first home. The home I live in now is the home I grew up in. We didn't do starter homes. We didn't have that luxury. So what I really want you to understand is that I can see where Wuna's coming from. I can understand that. But moreover, what I'm more concerned with is that someone not be able to put a bunch of parcels together and just build whatever they want, putting other people out of their spots. And then, of course, the rent goes up and whatever they were paying, because even now, that rent is high for people who are renting homes in my neighborhood. So when somebody, and that's just in my neighborhood. This person owns properties all over. But just in my neighborhood, 27, maybe even more homes. One person. And you can call it old-fashioned, you can call it whatever you want. But for some people, that's the home that they know. My mother gets in the mail at least once a week some postcard or some letter. We would like to buy your home. And this has been going on for years. Years. So I am for keeping single-family homes available as long as possible.
Is there any additional comment, input from council? All right, thank you for all who have spoken. Are there any reports from standing committees? Seeing none, we will proceed. We'll now move into the Committee of the Whole. Councilmember Colasetti from Ward 4 will preside.
Thank you. There are no items on the consent agenda from the Committee of the Whole tonight. So on behalf of the committee, the first item from the regular agenda that I would like to move for approval is Resolution Number 2025-07-062R, a resolution approving an increase in the number of Class RNT 1 liquor licenses for Guadalupe Family Inc., doing business as Sakura Japanese Cuisine, 132 West Main Street, Urbana, Illinois.
Second.
Motion made by Jaya, seconded by Mary Alice. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk? Grace, sorry.
Just wanted to circle back from last week and say that I appreciate with this and the next ones that we did get a little more information on a nice color-coordinated map of the liquor license in Urbana. So just wanted to highlight that we did get that information from last week. I don't know if we plan to make it available or if anyone's interested. You could email any of us and we can share.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey?
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti?
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
That passes.
Next, on behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I'd like to move the following resolution for approval. Resolution number 2025-07-063R, a resolution approving an increase in the number of liquor licenses in the Class RNT 1 designation for 4 Ways Foods LLC, doing business as Lazy Daisy Diner and Cafe, 300 South Broadway Avenue, Suite 140, Urbana, Illinois.
Second.
Motion made by Jaya, seconded by Grace. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey?
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti?
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, on behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I'd like to move resolution number 2025-07-064R, a resolution approving an increase in the number of liquor licenses in the Class RNT 1 designation for CRS Silver Creek Urbana LLC, doing business as Silver Creek 402 North Race Street, Urbana, Illinois, for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Jaya, seconded by Mary Alice. Is there any discussion? Quisenberry?
Just a quick question. I assume this is because of a change in ownership?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey?
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti?
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that passes.
Next, on behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I'd like to move approval for ordinance number 2025-04-013, an ordinance approving a comprehensive plan, Imagine Urbana Plan Case Number 2502 CP25.
Second.
All right, motion made by Jaya, seconded by Grace. Any discussion? Mary Alice?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to this ordinance. I would like to specifically state that the definition of N1 should include the intent to preserve existing single unit or duplex zoning wherever it currently exists. Remove the language allowing small businesses on corner lots only in residential neighborhoods, and remove corridor neighbor designation for the Lincoln-Busey corridor.
Second.
All right, motion for an amendment made by Mary Alice, seconded by Mr. Evans. Is there any discussion around the amendment?
Could I have a point of clarification? Do you have that in writing, or could you repeat? I'm trying to understand the proposal.
Sure. So I don't know if I have it in writing. I told Chris that I didn't need it in writing. So N1 would add language that would say preserve existing single unit or duplex zoning where it currently exists. Removing the language allowing small businesses on corner lots. Right now it says corner lots or on the edge of neighborhoods, so I'm only removing corner lots. And remove the corridor neighborhood designation from the Lincoln-Busey corridor. Those are the three items. Can I speak to my amendment?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm only going to repeat a little bit of what I've said in the past. I do think that it is necessary for us to think about one of the asks from the different people who have wanted these changes has been to pause the comprehensive plan and do a housing study. But since it is the will of the council to move forward before we do the housing study, I feel like this allows us to have somewhat of a compromise. And I will say on the record that I know that we are going to be doing neighborhood studies. And I actually would like to suggest that when we do neighborhood studies, we include it in the comprehensive plan. This is not static. This is something that can change. But before we have that housing study, it's very difficult for us to make this broad group for N1. And so I find that this is hopefully a balance between some of the concerns. And you know what? I could be proven wrong. After we do the housing study, some areas that I think don't need housing X might actually need housing X. And I'm happy to be proven wrong, and I'm happy to make updates as they become available. I said this last time. I'm going to say it again because we've spoken about vacancy rates, we've spoken about diversity, but I do want to recognize that the minority is single-family houses, not the majority, the minority. And I feel like this goes to giving some protection, not blanket protection. And the reason I say that is because there are properties that are zoned R3, which is a bit broader than just a single-family residence. I am certainly open to the conversations about somebody suggested small units in the backyard. I'm certainly open to those conversations as we go through the zoning ordinance. But maintaining single-family housing and duplex housing, I think is important for our community to ensure that we do have some diversity. I recognize that there are certainly large apartment buildings in various areas. I will say, if I just look around the corner from me, I have a brand new building, which I share a parking lot with in my backyard. That's okay. It was zoned that way. Right next to it is a building that somebody actually rehabbed the whole thing. It's beautiful. They put it back to where it was before. There's a new fraternity just 2 blocks away from me. So in certain areas, we have development and we have people who are willing to invest that money, but I absolutely agree that there is some housing that people don't want to invest that money. And I think we should think about like ways that we can encourage different groups, not only single-family houses and duplexes, but also apartments. There's a lot of houses out there that are divided up, and some are in great quality, and some are not. And I think we need to encourage people to keep those up. And so I'm open to any suggestions about that. So last but not least, I wanted to draw attention, I think Mary Pat, and full disclosure, she's my neighbor. She lives across the street, but I haven't spoken to her about this. I think she brings up an interesting point about the corridor neighborhood designation paired with the Lincoln study that we have. And so I think that, I mean, I agree with her synopsis that if we have the corridor neighborhood, which encourages some small businesses, but also it encourages some medium density housing, it could increase traffic on an area that we're trying to kind of slow down everything. So I think at this time, I don't think it's appropriate to have that designation.
Sorry, is there any additional discussion around the amendment? Jaya.
Yeah, thank you. I think the conversation about the corridor, I completely understand. Again, that's not my word. That's not the piece that's going to impact folks who live where I do. I am concerned about the preserved single housing and duplexes. And to be clear, I'm not opposed to single family houses. I live in one. I didn't choose to live there because I live there because that's what I could afford. But yeah, we have those, but also it's very difficult for folks to build in my ward. And I am not comfortable without doing a plan, without having any kind of logic for my ward to say any N1 has to keep what it has. It's not working for us now, and I don't feel comfortable with that. And I will say also, again, much of my ward, we would really benefit from having things like small businesses on corners. So, I think figuring out that balance as we look at neighborhood plans makes sense, but to just say that it has to apply to the whole city because of how it impacts one part does not feel appropriate to me for a strategic document. So I will be opposing those aspects of this amendment.
All right, Grace.
Thanks. I have some clarifying questions, and then I do have a discussion piece as well. But, okay, so what you're proposing, Mary Alice, is the definition of neighborhood 1 place type changes. Is that correct?
It adds. Yes, so the definition would change by the additional language.
Okay, except for, okay, so your point 1, you want to add preserve existing single unit zoning where it currently exists to the definition of N1 neighborhood. Is that correct?
And duplex zoning, but yes, that is correct.
Okay, the preserve existing single-family and duplex zoning where it exists. Second thing, you want to remove corner lots for small business use? Is that right?
Correct, just not edges. That'll stay. My proposal does not remove for the neighborhood edges.
I'm not seeing that under N1 definition, though. I don't know if I'm looking at the right place.
There's two places where N1 definition is. One is just the really brief one, and then there's one that's a broader statement.
Yeah, it's under land uses, so it's on the pages with more description. It's not just on the initial definition page. So right now, if I may, it says small businesses like cafes and professional offices may be appropriate on corners or along the edges of neighborhoods.
And so my proposal is to remove the word corners, basically.
Okay. And I will also say that I'm not an auditory person. I'm really struggling right now, especially working with reading one definition, and there's multiple definitions, and I don't have in writing the words that you're proposing to change. So, I mean, even just for accessibility and processing, what's the proposal here is quite challenging. I still am not looking at that N1 definition in front of me, but if we could, that would be awesome. And then you had a third recommended change, is that right, Mary Alice?
That is correct. It is to remove corridor neighborhood designation from the Lincoln-Busey corridor.
And that's also in the N1 definition, or where is that?
That isn't, no, there's a corridor neighborhood place type. So in the document, it's under neighborhood center.
Remove corridor neighborhood. Definition, I'm really struggling to understand this third proposal.
Yeah, basically, but.
And if I may add my discussion piece while we're pulling that up and appreciate the clarifying questions, I agree with what Jay had mentioned about those specific things like preserving existing single unit and duplexes as being maybe part of a detailed neighborhood study for WUNA or certain areas specifically, if that is the case, and not applying it broadly. And happy to have some clarification here.
I'm marking up a document for you, Grace.
Oh, thank you. I don't know whoever was ready. I think Kevin was also pulling up something else.
Yeah, so I just highlighted the bit about that would be struck. So this part that says appropriate on corners or along the edges of neighborhoods.
Hopefully that makes sense. There's some different cross-outs and everything. And Kevin, yeah, has basically highlighted the three words that I'm proposing we remove.
Okay, and for the first two recommendations, right, that were
so this would be
revolve around N1.
This would be the second one. So this is the corners.
Yes.
The first one is the preserve, and the third one is corridor neighborhood.
Okay, but corridor neighborhoods being a separate area and definition entirely, not
Correct.
under N1, right? Okay, So you have 3 proposals, 2 related to N1, 1 completely separate related to corridor neighborhood that you're proposing apply only to Green Street.
Correct. Although, Kevin, would you mind pulling up the?
Yeah, I
the-
was just going to do that.
Thank
I'll
you.
pull up the,
So you're going back
the map.
on this
I
page
could
being
go
passed
there.
around said it should only apply to Green Street.
I've pared it down, basically, to those 3 key things.
I might have had the more detailed ones too, but, oh, are they? Oh, cool. Oh, detailed maps, perfect. Oh, was it? Okay, well, this one, yeah, this shows the area in question. So as I understand it, the proposal would be to not have corridor neighborhood where from Green Street south to
Correct.
Michigan?
So it would stay in Springfield and north of Green. I did count it today. There are, of course, there's a church. There's a couple of church buildings along Lincoln right now. There's definitely fraternities and sororities. There's already apartment buildings. There are 14 single-family households that I see. Some of them are for rent. Some of them appear to not be for rent, but that's possible. And then there are, my visual inspection, it looks like there's 2 buildings that are 2 duplexes. That's what is on Lincoln, south of Illinois, is what I was looking at.
Go for it. I'm sorry, Grace. I thought you were still talking.
I wasn't sure if I was either. So with those points, so I guess, again, with point number 1, I agree that something that specific should be in a neighborhood study if it is relevant and not a blanket statement about preserving existing single or duplex family units, because that may or may not be relevant to all neighborhoods, especially as we've talked about the importance of doing a housing study. I also don't want to make any sweeping recommendations or assumptions in either direction on that. And that is the second point for removing corner lots for small businesses. Happy to hear when I'm done with this, just sharing these comments on why we would do that. My understanding is there's no differences with corner lots versus other lots versus edge lots versus anything like realistically in our zoning that would justify differentiating what a corner lot is as far as a business purpose. And then as far as removing the corridor designation, again, I'm curious why, especially since so much of that area south of Green is still up against the university and in that kind of transitional area. And it seems to my understanding that this corridor neighborhood has a few purposes, but to have some kind of strategic development and also preserve and buffer the surrounding neighborhood further in. So I guess I'm trying to understand and see a point in why we would do those second 2 recommendations.
So the reason that I'm suggesting that we remove it from corner, at least the small businesses from corner, is that I think in some corners it might be appropriate. For example, I used to live right next door to what used to be the Sunshine Grocery Store. There was a small little business right there on kind of the edge, that corner. But would I put one right across the street from Leal? I probably wouldn't. And so by saying it's on the edge of the neighborhoods, I think that takes into consideration allowing some businesses into the neighborhoods, but at the same time, not having to go back every single time somebody wants to do something on the corners within an internal neighborhood. That's my rationale for the corner removal. Specifically for the corridor neighborhood, I don't know if you remember the conversation about R7 when we were talking about the reuse of the fraternities and the sororities, especially since some of them were choosing to build new, to do something else. And we had a very long conversation about small businesses along Lincoln. And it passed with having the R1 designation with the small businesses on the west side of Lincoln and not the east side of Lincoln. And so I'm just adhering to that conversation that we've already had. And also, I do think that Mary Pat's analysis is relevant here. So those are my 2 rationales for that.
there any additional discussion around the amendment that was made by Mary Alice? All right, seeing no additional discussion, Sharice, you got to be quicker than that.
I'm sorry, I'm just following what I've been dealing with all night. So anyway, regarding the single family home model thing, my issue is, like I said in my comments, is that because I see and I know that there can be one person that will own several pieces of property. And I know that there's some kind of language in there about the aggregation and so on and so forth. I get that, but at the same time, maybe it needs to be a little more narrow. And I say this because in the 6 years that I've been on city council, the one thing that I've noticed with all of the planning and all of those things, every time you check that box and you say, the comprehensive plan said, the comprehensive plan said, the comprehensive plan said, we're talking about a comprehensive plan that's 20 years old. And our trends in real estate have changed. I'm not going to say evolved. I'm just going to say changed. We have some people that buy properties for nothing else other than money. It's called flipping houses now. It's called, and they take advantage of those people who are less fortunate and less capable of actually being able to find affordable housing after they sell their house for what they think is a lot of money. And I think that it's important for people to be able to maintain an independence without having, I've had classmates whose kids sold their houses from under them, and they had to go live in senior living homes and stuff because they flipped the house. They knew that they were going to get it after that parent passed, and they just, kind of did what they were going to do beforehand. I think it's important that we understand that most people's, the only wealth they have is in their home. And it's a single family home, but that's if they choose to sell their house, I can't tell people not to sell, but I sure enough can try to keep a person who owns several properties from selling someone's, especially with the problems that we have nowadays with affordable housing and so on and so forth, from selling somebody's home right from underneath them and selling it to someone who doesn't have who's not going to benefit. Because the one thing I've learned too in the past 6 years, folks don't care how it affects the neighborhood. I don't care how you try to write it up. They don't care. They tell you, oh yes, this will benefit your neighborhood. And no matter how many times the people that live there say, could you tell me how? Or could you please talk to us and tell us why this is going here at this time? People don't care. Corporations don't care. And if I can be real specific, Carl didn't care. So I want it to be I want a person to be able to stay in their homes. I want a person to be able to, as long as it may take. I'm not saying they can't sell it. I'm just saying that they should be able to keep a roof over their head. And if that makes me an awful person or a selfish person, then hello, that's me.
Jaya?
Yeah, thank you. As we consider this amendment, I am going to ask again that other council members think about the wider community, because as has been noted many times, for many people, the equity they have, the most valuable thing that they might have if they're fortunate enough to own a home is their home. And to tell people, if you sell your home, it has to stay the way it is now, no matter where you live, that's putting significant constraints on people, right? So I live in a tiny single-family home that my husband and I bought using a HUD loan for our down payment because we had no money and because it was cheaper to buy than to rent 10 years ago, right? It's a different world now. people in my neighborhood, if they sell their home, that's an opportunity for them to think about their future, right? So they might be selling it for another family to move into and keep it a single-family home. They might be selling it so that they can build a duplex. We've seen great success with duplexes being built in my part of Ward 4, in houses that were literally falling down, right? So if we say if it's a single-family home now, it has to stay a single-family home, that means we can't build a duplex there. It means that we can't build a small apartment there if that's what's appropriate. So I hear that, people want to protect what people have, but this community is growing and we have to be willing to share, and we also have to think about that equity. The value of that equity looks different for people, right? If someone is about to retire and the only thing that they have is their home, and they've put all of their resources, all of their savings into their home, we're now restricting what they can do or what the next person can do with that property. I have a problem with that. Again, I hear it if we want to designate certain areas as historic districts, put additional requirements around what can and can't be done with those spaces. But we're talking about essentially a strategic plan. We're looking at big picture, and these proposed amendments are going to impact people who live near me who might want to do things differently with their sweat equity, right? What they've put into their households, in terms of maybe they don't own yet and they want that opportunity to. I think it's important that we look at, this is a growing community, this is a diverse community, and saying what we have now very rarely is, this is how we've always done things, this is the right answer. And I don't want us to stagnate as a city. I think we're going to continue to see a significant loss to other communities if we do that, and harm people who might have no other item of value other than their home.
All right, seeing as though everyone has spoken to it, can we give Mary Alice one more and then call the vote for the amendment? All right. Well, we're in discussion currently, so I'll let you, if you can
Thank
go,
you.
and then we'll just close this out.
I don't know if people, because we're trying to wrap this up here, so I would be open to amending my amendment to be historic neighborhoods, which would be West Urbana, Dr. Ellis subdivision, with if that is the subdivision that I should be paying attention to in Ward 3, and historic East Urbana. If that would satisfy some of the concerns, I would be willing to modify that. Would it be possible, Chair, for me to call a straw poll to see if people are more amenable to that change?
Let's go for it.
Could you clarify for the purpose of the straw poll and for the record what specifically we are considering in your straw poll?
Sure. That's a great question. So instead of changing the entire N1 to preserve single-family and duplex zoning where it now currently exists, N1 would be modified to say preserving single-family and duplex where it now exists in West Urbana, the Dr. Ellis subdivision, and historic East Urbana. So adding those three. So
And is this all going in the general description, or that's also in the land use?
it would be in both.
Proposing it.
Yeah, it would be where it's relevant in N1. So the other two stay, and I'm just modifying that first one to try and account for some of the concerns. So, Chair, if I could have like a thumbs up or a thumbs down in terms of whether or not people would support that change?
Thumbs up if you support that change.
Okay.
All right, the thumbs have it.
Okay, I will make that change official then.
All right, so.
Oh, yeah. I'll second that new adjustment, yeah.
All right, so motion made to amend the amendment by Mary
I'm
Alice.
updating my amendment.
Updating the
Yeah.
amendment by Mary Alice, seconded by Chris. Is there any discussion? Jaya?
I don't feel, I really truly appreciate that compromise, but I don't feel like I can speak to what the needs of all of those historic areas are without the study, right? Like, this is why I think that we need the neighborhood plans. I don't think this is something that we should be putting into the comp plan.
All right, Mr. Quisenberry.
I haven't spoken yet, so I'm going to take a shot at that.
You're good, you're good.
I do appreciate the compromise. I think what this council needs to commit to is that the comprehensive plan is like other strategic plans. It's a blueprint. It's something that can evolve, and that I would have been a person who would have voted to hold on part of the comprehensive plan until the housing study was done. And so I feel like this is a reasonable compromise to protect a couple of areas that are concerned about the change, and yet create an environment where we can see this work in some parts of the city. And as we do this housing study, which we absolutely need to do, when we get data, guidance that helps us understand, maybe even you, Mary Alice, understand how it might be right in areas that we didn't expect it to be right, or you didn't expect it to be right, that we can modify the comprehensive plan. The last one was modified several times, right? So I'll support this as it has been amended.
Grace.
Just a quick one, for those same reasons, because this is flexible and non-binding and can be changed, I am not in support of the amendments. I appreciate the clarification to understand what the amendments are. But again, I think that needs to be dictated by a housing study, needs to be in more specific neighborhood study, and not seeing a clear distinction here on lot differences or the campus corridor neighborhood division area.
All right. At this time, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey?
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti?
No.
Councilmember Bishop?
No.
Councilmember Wilkin?
No.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Now we vote on the.
All right, now we're back to the original motion. Do I need to repeat all of that? Or, all right, now we're back to the original motion. There's no additional discussion around that. Grace, go for it.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to stick to the amendment at that time. Do want to say that I do understand some concerns about the university spreads with UNA and being a historic neighborhood. And I also think that piece of physical building historic preservation is also somewhat independent, right? There's already a distinction. There's already things in place and systems to go about that. We have the whole commission to deal with historic preservation of the physical buildings. So I think that needs to be dealt with almost separately from general zoning and the comprehensive plan. So I understand the desire to preserve historic buildings and that kind of building character. Like I said, I do understand the concerns with spread of the University of Illinois. I also would not like to see this historic neighborhood buildings and community be turned into giant monotonous skyrise housing. I don't think that that's in line with some of the Urbana vibe. I think that there are places where it is, and that's some of the importance with the corridor study, is so that we can have university development for students in areas that's more conducive with the community and to benefit the university. I definitely hear the point about well, I would say I think it's a balance between community and university, and ideally needs to be collaborative, and they are so intertwined. So I absolutely agree that students aren't here to serve us or be taken advantage of. I also don't think that the community is here to serve the university. I think that we need to, we're talking about keep people here as far as university students. That's okay, that's one thing, but also being one of the few people up here who grew up in Champaign-Urbana, there's a lot of people who want to get out of here and escape and don't see that opportunity for themselves, having lived here and not being associated with the University of Illinois. So I think it's a balance, and we need to value both and not have one over-serving the other. We need to grow together in this area. So I just think that this comprehensive plan, again, not set in stone. We will get into all the details on the zoning, the mays and shalls, and what's allowed by right versus permit versus conditional versus special, all the things that we need to talk about in the details of the weeds, and this is not necessarily it. I'm okay with passing the comprehensive plan as it is, or I guess at least as it was. and look forward to some of that continued discussion and the housing study. I think that's absolutely an important piece. Before we move on any of the zoning, I will say will personally commit to not having any major zoning changes until we have the housing study and some more information that has been asked for.
Is there any additional discussion? Jay, would you mind taking chair?
I'll take the chair. Chair recognizes Mayor Williams.
I just want to piggyback and agree with Grace in the sense that I too, agree in regards to the housing study and, can make that commitment, as well as we move forward. So that's all. Thank you.
Would you like the chair back?
Yes.
I'll relinquish the chair.
All right. Oh, Grace, go for it.
I'm sorry, I forgot one thing I wanted to add.
That's one thing, guys.
Okay, yeah, my last thing on this is that with that relationship too of housing and the university and affordable housing, to my understanding that the past year and upcoming year, that housing costs have increased greatly, even more than usual, because of rent, because the university has either over-enrolled or not enough housing, or I guess when you put them together, they're both the truth. And so that displaces people from having places to rent, and that low vacancy rate also drives up the price with competition. So I just want to say that it is a balance here, and that as much as, saying about not wanting to have exclusively high-rise apartment housing throughout all of Urbana, there is a place for that, and there is a need, because having places for students to live also allows for more places for other diverse community members to live. So I just wanted to remind us of that relationship there.
Thank you. James, did you have? No? All right. Jay, all right.
I heard an uh-oh. That often happens when I speak. I did want to just add one thing. I earlier mentioned the concern about the way folks have been talking about students. I think Grace's points are well taken too. But I also want to clarify, when I said students, I didn't say renters. I said students. Students are renters. Students are homeowners. Again, we bought our house when my husband was a student, right? So just clarifying again, there are lots of ways that students are members of our community, and they're not just renters. And certainly discriminating against any group of renters is a problem, but it's discriminating against any group in our city is a problem, period.
All right. At this time, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that motion passes. All right. All right. Oh, sorry. It's still on you.
Back to me. Next, we have, on behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I'd like to recommend Resolution Number 2025-07-058R, a resolution to endorse the Champaign-Urbana Urban Area Transportation Study, CUATS Lincoln Avenue Corridor Study.
Second.
We have an informal memo that John is going to pass around, and I'm going to read to you all. So I can go ahead and read this to you all if you're ready. So this is intended to address some of the comments that we had at last week's presentation. And actually, before I get started, we're not going to go through slides unless they're needed, but I will pull something up on here just. So first, regarding fiscal and budget impact, a statement from our grants consultant. This is Farnsworth Group, so her name Julia Plouffe. This is a quote directly from her. State and federal agencies frequently require a resolution from the municipality showing support for the project to be funded by the grant. Failure to include the required resolution will disqualify the application from further review or award of funding.
Even if a resolution or letter of support isn't specifically called out in a grant's requirements, we normally include one to show that the submission of the grant application is authorized and the project to be funded is officially supported by the municipality. Okay, so back to my words here. So given that the opportunities to receive federal grants are limited due to our current federal administration, it is likely that IDOT is the only agency we will be pursuing outside funding from for this project. Since this study was funded by an IDOT grant, disregarding the recommendations of the study would likely disqualify the project from receiving IDOT funding and therefore leave little to no potential outside funding sources for the project. So going on to address a few things regarding community impacts of the recommendations of the study. The proposed access restrictions have raised concerns about increased travel distances, turning movements, and travel times for residents in West Urbana traveling to and from Lincoln Avenue. In mapping out various alternative routes to and from the 800 block of the state streets most affected by the access restrictions, the estimated impacts per trip are 0 to 3 blocks of increased travel distance, 0 to 2 additional turns, and 0 to 2 minutes of increased travel times. Additionally, a question was raised, why aren't right turns allowed onto Oregon and Iowa? So allowing right turns from Lincoln onto Oregon or Iowa would negatively impact the relocated pedestrian crossings. Vehicles would stop within the crosswalk on Lincoln Avenue while waiting to turn right if a pedestrian is crossing either Oregon or Iowa. And this could block the pedestrian crossing on Lincoln Avenue and force pedestrians out of the crosswalk and into potentially mixed traffic space. Okay, so going on, last week we talked a lot about how we located the improvements to be where the highest density and the most severe crashes occurred. So the locations of the proposed access restrictions and relocated pedestrian crossings specifically were determined by the crash records of the segments within the corridor. So some additional statistics on those crashes, and the first points listed are really highlighting how the segment between the signalized Nevada intersection and Indiana, between those two intersections, have the highest amount of crashes and the severest crashes along the entire corridor. So 54% of all mid-block crashes in the corridor occur between Nevada at the signal and Indiana. 78% of the pedestrian and bicycle crashes in the corridor occur in that same segment. 57% of fatal and serious injuries in the corridor occurred between that segment. And then the final point, 56% of all crashes in the corridor between that segment are vehicle-to-vehicle and front-to-rear crashes. So we talked about how that was an indication of how pedestrians are likely trying to cross the street in those areas and cars are stopping suddenly to avoid crashes into those pedestrians. Okay, and then finally, the types of improvements proposed have been shown to reduce crashes. So these are proven methods to reduce crash rates. So the first bullet is saying if we were only to do the road diet, so going from the 4 lanes to 3 and the addition of bike lanes and excluding what we're considering our pedestrian improvements, the pedestrian activated signals at the mid-block crosswalks and the access restrictions, we would have an estimated 11 to 35% potential reduction in crashes corridor-wide. However, it is important to note that the road diet already exists in the IDOT problem segment to the south of Nevada to south of Indiana. So this section would not benefit from the maximum potential reduction and would likely remain on the IDOT critical safety tier list because the majority of crashes experienced within this segment are front to rear, not bicycle crashes. Going on, if we look at just doing the pedestrian recommendations, so that's the pedestrian activated signals at the mid-block crossings and the access restrictions, if these are implemented, we're looking at a potential reduction of up to 50% of all crashes between Green Street and Florida Avenue. So that's not including at the signalized intersections at Green and Florida that are highly trafficked. Then finally, if we have the complete suite of the recommended improvements, so doing the road diet, the on-street bike lanes, and the pedestrian improvements, we could see a yield of 56 to 68% reduction in overall crashes. For next steps, so why we're here, the endorsement by City Council will allow us, the city staff, to continue considering the improvements recommended by this study in our design phase. And the resolution will be a demonstration of the council's support for safety improvements along the corridor that will be critical for IDOT grant applications for this project. So if the recommendations are determined to be appropriate for the design of the corridor as we move forward, city staff must return to council to pass an ordinance before any changes to turning movements or to a change to a one-way street can take place. Thank you for listening to all of that and reading along.
Thank you, Carmen. You did great. All right, any discussion? Ladies first. Mary Alice.
Thank you. Actually, it's a question for staff. This is really good information. I really appreciate you taking the time to pull all this together. You've certainly convinced me that between Nevada Signal and Indiana is not a safe place to be, which I always cross at the Nevada Signal, but it's the south side, so I'm not going to go to the north side. Or no, I go to the north side, not the south side, sorry. My question is with the disregarding the recommendations of the study would likely disqualify us from the project from receiving IDOT funding. My question is, how closely do we have to adhere to the exact recommendations? For example, if we discover that maybe a bus stop north of Oregon, MTD's not going to do it. We need to move that. Well, we're going to move the pedestrian walk because it needs to be behind where the bus stop is, right? So my question is how much deviation would we be allowed and still qualify?
So I don't believe that we would be locked in to the exact locations of where the recommendations are, because IDOT acknowledges that you will acquire more information, you will study the segment further, and you may need to make changes. For example, if we cannot put the bus stop in that exact location and we need to move it. So I don't think that we are locked in to every specific recommendation. It's this overall idea of these access restrictions, the signalized crosswalks, our on-street bike lanes, and those shifts in bus stops. So if things have to move slightly from where the concept study is showing them now, I think IDOT would still be supportive.
Yeah, and if I could, maybe an example from the Florida Avenue corridor study could be helpful here too, where, what's the value of doing these corridor studies? It's to get that community engagement, leadership engagement from council early on in this conceptual, study. And so, Florida Avenue, as we are in the early stages of design now, there are some examples of where some details at one of the intersections, for example, for the movements of bikes through the intersection, we're finding once we were getting into the design that, okay, the one idea that was in the corridor study is not as good as this other alternative idea that worked better once we actually had the survey data and we're putting all the dimensions in on the plan view. And so what we'll do with that is update the corridor study once we get that intersection design updated to say, here's what we did as we got into design. So then we get engaged again with the public, with council again, as it's like an update. So it's not as much of a living document as the comprehensive plan, but a similar idea. Because then what that does is that, continues that public involvement with the corridor study. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I do have something for discussion, but I'll hold in case Chris had a question.
Chris?
A kind of similar question to Mary Alice's is, let's say the plan here passes, and later on, the leadership engagement and the community engagement doesn't want to do all the turn stuff that you're going to bring to us as an ordinance, that from now on, Indiana's one way this way, and from now on, rights only on Iowa and all that stuff. What does that do to our money if we don't accept the turn recommendations and movement recommendations?
And so what you're asking, Chris, another way of saying it is, if council endorses the study, but then we later don't enact some of the pieces that to make it happen. Well, and I think that, for where we are today, if council doesn't endorse the study, or we don't find some way to get council's concurrence on the study, then that just becomes a statement to, I guess, to anybody reviewing our application of like, the community didn't get behind this, in a sense. So that makes sense what I'm
No,
saying.
it doesn't. What I'm saying is, we approve the study, but later on, we say, we don't want that turn stuff. The public says, we don't want that turn stuff. Later on, after it's already been approved.
Sure.
And that's where I'm asking, what does that do to our financing, our funding from the state?
So I believe if we apply for IDOT funding and they have the understanding that we are doing what is recommended by this study, and then we later want to make changes, I think we just have to work with IDOT that they would approve of those changes. They would have to be supportive of it, or yes, I think we could potentially lose their funding.
Yeah, it would come down to the specific details of it, of like, I could see it being possible that yes, we could deviate from how some of the access controls are done, and it's still the project as a whole is considered by IDOT to still have the same intention and spirit of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you were to take away some key elements, enough key elements, then they could say like, look, this isn't the same project anymore. But if we're modifying some details here and there, like, that doesn't rise to that same level of, okay, this is not the same project.
But what I'm hearing is it's up to IDOT to accept what our changes are.
Well, and that's, if we get funding from them, then then we have to dance with them, and or we don't get to use their money.
Now, that's a little different than what we've been hearing up to this point. I was hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I mean for the last month, that this plan is in flux, and we can make changes later, and we can adjust, and we can, but it sounds to me now like if IDOT puts the money up, then they're in charge, to some extent.
To some extent. Yeah, I mean, when you're using somebody else's money, you're going to play by their rules. But I also would say, from experience of, like Florida Avenue and other projects like that, it comes down to, well, what's the justification? How do we make the argument for why we're making the change? And, if you're talking about like we're going to change one of the intersections, how the access control works, I would be very surprised if that was a thing that just killed the grant funding. That's my personal opinion.
Right. I think it depends on the intent of the grant funding. If the grant is intended to reduce safety, increase safety and reduce crashes, and what we're doing, if we make changes to the plans and we're still meeting those goals of the grant, then I think they would be supportive of it. You still have to be in line with what the purpose of the grant is that we have received.
And correct me if I'm wrong, too, I guess maybe to go with what you're saying and to piggyback off what Chris is. We have until, 2030 or something like that to essentially make those changes, agree to whatever is taking place before anything is being done anyway, correct?
That's if we are using our state motor fuel tax funds, which is how we currently have it in the CIP. If we want to move forward with this project quicker, because this has been an issue since 2017 or prior, it was 2017 that it was listed in the critical segment list by IDOT for our region, then we would need to seek grant funding.
Jaya.
Thank you. Thanks for the additional information. And I want to highlight a couple things. One is I feel like as a council, we're always asking city staff to think about how are we going to fund this, right? We don't have enough money for everything. How are we going to fund this? You're telling us how we're going to fund it. So I encourage people to think about that. Yes, there are many more phases, right? This is just plan. Then there's the engineering. Then there's actual implementation, right? There's still many more steps. And this is literally what we're asking city staff to do all the time, is help us figure out how do we pay for the things that are critical to the city. And if we don't pass this plan, or if it needs more time and you have a reason why you want more time with it, fine. But just to reject it, it means we're closing the city off for applying for funding to save lives, right? So I guess I would ask people to think about that too, of like, is the inconvenience of some of our residents having to make extra turns worth saying we don't care, or we're going to continue to kick this down the road so that more people are injured and potentially killed? And this has been an issue. I came to this community in 2005 for undergrad, and it has been dangerous, and there have been people who've been getting hurt and killed in that corridor this whole time. So 2 points. 1, what is more important than the safety and well-being of our residents? And 2, city staff are literally doing what we've asked them to do. So I think it's time to move forward.
All right, Sharice, now come back to you, Mary.
1 minute. And now that I'm kind of hearing that type of description that Jay had just made, and I'm going back to maybe 5 years ago, we voted to be, what was it called, Zero Vision or Vision Zero? And this may actually help with that particular goal that we had in that as well. So I can kind of see why this makes sense. So I do want to say that much. And I think that since we made that commitment, and this is a step toward that, to keeping pedestrians and bicyclists and people in general from being injured in car crashes and so on and so forth, I think that we need to think about this. Definitely need to have a hard thought on this.
Mary Alice.
Yes, thank you. I just kind of wanted to speak to a couple of things, and I think I said this last week. I'm in full support of making this area safer, absolutely. Some of my ward members might not like this statement, but I fully expect some of these turns to be restricted. I would like to see a couple of things done before we make the determination on exactly which streets we're going to restrict and how we're going to restrict them. So I fully expect this to pass out tonight. I'm going to vote no, only so my 2 concerns could potentially be heard. So as I said, I'm sure this will pass. I'm sure that in the end, if we do get the money, that we will end up closing some of the access. That access where we turn left, right, in, out, most of that is determined by where the pedestrian stops are and also where the bus stops are. And so for that, I think Chandra's suggestion last week in terms of piloting some of this, I do strongly feel like we should pilot some of this. And when I say pilot, I mean like a real pilot. Like, does this work? If it doesn't work, can we make changes? And then the other thing that I think would be interesting is to study where the students are crossing when class is in session. I mean, I know where I cross, but I'm just one person. As I was going down Lincoln again, looking at the crosswalks, I was thinking, okay, well, that one matches with that particular side of the sidewalk, and there's both, different directions and so forth. But I'd like to see what students are doing. I agree with the person who was in Oregon crossing on the median. I hate to say it, but I do it sometimes too. But I only do it if there aren't any cars there. So, I mean, I get it. So those are the 2 things that I would love to see as we move forward with this. I agree with Jay. We've been asking staff to look for other ways that we can achieve our goals. I agree with Sharice that we passed Vision Zero. I agree with all those points, but I just want to clarify why I'm going to vote no, and I do expect this to pass.
All right, Grace? Thank you.
Not too much here. Also curious if y'all had something to add to the general conversation. It looks like y'all had things in the works.
Yeah, are we able to jump into the mix? I don't know if that's appropriate or not. Referee?
Well, we're in discussion right now, so if you were able to provide clarification to a council inquiry or request at the discretion of the chair.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, thanks. Great points, Mary Allison. Thank you for, I love having the conversation about it. I did want to clarify that the traffic data that we collected, especially about pedestrian traffic, was collected in April of 2023 when class was in session. And so that's a very important thing to collect that data when school is in session, definitely. If for some reason this endorsement resolution doesn't pass tonight, what I would just ask of council is, let's find a way that we can get the endorsement. What changes would we require for that? So that just encourage that, conversation too. But
all right, Grace.
Sorry, thanks for commenting on some of the discussion here. Just want to say a quick thank you to all of our staff. Thank you for our actual city staff and also RPC and consultants. And I really appreciate the time to explain this and all of the maps. I get confused on which state street is coming next anytime I have to go near Lincoln. And I feel like I'm more familiar with it after having these thorough explanations. So I appreciate that. And also some of the changes that have been made throughout this process in response to some of the feedback, that there have been a lot less one-ways, to my understanding, preserve access to streets with car traffic, and I think there's been a lot of compromises on this as is, and I definitely agree with piloting or testing stuff as we go, especially with new changes. This community is probably going to be really an adjustment when streets suddenly become a one-way when they haven't always been. I struggle with one-ways even when they've been there all the time. So I am excited to pilot some of that, and I really hope this enhances the safety. And just thank you to all who've worked on it and given input and helped make it even better along the way.
Thank you, Grace. All right, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu?
No.
Councilmember Evans?
No.
Councilmember Hersey?
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti?
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That motion passes. All right. Are there any reports from special committee? Seeing none, we will move on. We're now, are there any reports from officers? Seeing none, we will move on. We have one mayoral appointment for confirmation tonight. The appointment of Darius White as city administrator with the term ending June 30th, 2027. Is there a motion to confirm this appointment?
So moved.
Motion made
Second.
by Jaya, seconded by Sharice. If there's any discussion, I'll kick it off. Discussion? Can I do that? All right. So first off, I'm incredibly excited to hopefully, knock on wood, welcome Darius White as the new Urbana's new city administrator. I've said before, and there was, multiple ways we could have went about this, and there would have been no doubt that, he would have been the top, candidate in my opinion. There's a reason that multiple neighboring cities have tapped him to lead. He's earned the respect through his experience, his integrity, and he's shown results. More than just qualified, Darius is of this community, and that was extremely important to me. He lives here. He's raising his family here. He's built meaningful relationships right here in the city. He understands the challenges and our potential, because he lives here with us. And that means a lot to me, that's very encouraging as we move forward. Darius understands the direction that I want to take the city, towards greater equity, stronger neighborhoods, and smarter, more inclusive growth. I believe he's exactly the partner that we need to help turn this vision into a reality. This is one of those decisions that I believe we'll be able to look back and say that was a job well done. It's an honor to have someone of Darius's caliber and character to join the team. And as I've said with every appointment, results matter. And Darius and I have had this conversation, right? If performance doesn't align with the expectations, we'll address it and adjust accordingly. I'll be the first to admit if and when I am wrong, but I am confident that this won't be the case here. So I am grateful to be in the position to offer Darius this opportunity. So, there any further discussion? Grace.
Thanks. To say thank you for your willingness to serve and join us in Urbana again as staff. I also just want to say that I think that this makes sense, that there's no, as far as I know, requirements or minimal ones that we've met or precedent for mayoral appointments in this kind of capacity. And that also this is somewhat of an internal hire, since Darius was with us at the city for years ago. So I think under different circumstances, this could have been an internal promotion. And so I'm definitely have no doubts about the qualifications. And I think that we have seen Darius's work as a city employee here in the past and in other roles, and have no doubts. And again, thank you for being willing to come back and join us here, and wish you the best.
Mary Alice?
I just wanted to say I did have a conversation with the mayor about the job description, and I believe, and please confirm if I'm remembering correctly, you said that you'd be working on that over the next couple of weeks.
Correct. There will definitely be, some changes, yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right. Are we in discussion? Okay, we're in discussion. Okay. So I had the pleasure to meet with Darius last week and had a really good conversation, really productive conversation. I know there was a question about some of the procedural items from one of my constituents, actually, and I believe that's all been sorted out, that we're within compliance with the law and so forth. I have every expectation that this will pass. I am going to vote present. Nothing against Darius, but I'd like to have the job description. And so that's the reason I'm going to vote present. Present does go with the majority. As I said, I don't foresee this stopping that, but that's why I'll be present tonight. So thank you.
Jan?
I just want to say thank you to Darius and to Mayor Williams for making sure that I had an opportunity to meet with Darius before this appointment, since I was not available during the previously scheduled time. So really appreciate that conversation and feel very confident in this choice. I also want to say thank you to Elizabeth for serving as our interim. It's a lot to balance on top of her normal responsibilities. So I look forward to seeing this change, both for the mayor and for Elizabeth as well.
Anyone else? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Present.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. Congratulations, sir, and welcome. All right, we got 5 more items. No, I'm joking, guys. With no further business before the body, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night, Chandra.